Sorry friends for the little technical glitch. So welcome friends, good afternoon. In the middle of written filing session, today we are here to discuss some interesting things about computation of income, business income and foreign asset disclosure in the ITR. So when Ketan bhai approached me regarding this topic, so I was a little amazed as to everybody is an expert as far as the ITR is concerned, because this ITR has been in existence since now almost 10-15 years, and much of the water has flown above it and much of the things have happened and there are no much changes. So what are the things which we can discuss with regards to ITR? So while we were discussing, we got to the point that there is one concept of foreign asset disclosure which is becoming very prominent nowadays because of the department being getting very vigilant. Department being getting huge number of data from various countries, and 3 huge penalties applicable in respect of foreign asset disclosure. So we discussed that let's start our discussion on foreign asset disclosure, and what we will also do is we'll try and cover some of the relevant points as far as the computation of business income is concerned, and most importantly we will take up the issues and the queries faced by the participants while filing their income tax computation return, that is the ITR, and then we'll discuss each one of the query to the extent possible. So our major discussion today would be, I would say, disclosure of foreign assets, all technical aspect of it. Computation of business income, we will have a general discussion, and then I have tried and raised some of the common queries. And over and above that, if anybody has any query, please start giving it in the chat box so that we can take up query wise query. So this session would be a more interactive session rather than a one-way communication, because we will be actually taking the queries, we will be actually discussing it, we will be taking your counter queries. So that is how we all will relearn. The name of the series is Relearn. So we will learn from each other's experiences and each other's difficulties and resolutions. So let's start our discussion without wasting much time on reporting of foreign assets. Now friends, if you see our ITR, so our ITR basically is an exhaustive return running into hundreds of pages, capturing various details. Now the main objective of capturing all these details is to enable the artificial intelligence to work. So in the past, our return form, when I'm talking about prior to 2006, when we used to file our return physically, our return form used to be normally Saral, and one of the form which used to run in 1 page or maximum 2 page. And the only information which we used to give was the computation, income from business, and other sources we used to give summarized version. And in the case of company return, there used to be some extra details of the computation. And as far as the other details are concerned, it used to be name, PAN number, address, assessment year, date of birth. These are the very basic details which we used to give. No details were provided over and above, and the selection for case of scrutiny and all these analysis used to be done physically by the officers sitting in his chamber. So it used to be a physical activity, no computers were involved, and that was the reason there was no much data point required. But after 2006, when everything started going computerized and digital, so the process of the exhaustive ITR started. Initially, we were used to find it difficult. Now, but over a period of time, we have relearned almost all the aspects of ITR. So now, if you see what the ITR captures, is of course it captures your basic details. It captures various financial details. I would say financial details or financial information rather, not financial details. Okay. Then it captures various financial data. Then it captures your tax computation, summarized version, detailed version, tax payment details, everything. Okay. So in this ITR, if you see, there are various data points. If you can categorize personal data concerning your financial information, your financial data, and your computational data. So normally I would say when we prepare our return, the main control, which as a matter of a basic check which we always keep, is that the final result shown in the summary of total income, deduction, tax liability, tax payment, asset tax, I would say TDS, whether it matches with what we have computed or what we have prepared offhand and offline. We normally what we do is a practice of preparing a computation, approving it, and then feeding it into the system. Normally, the feeding is done by the regular staff, by the junior staff, because it is otherwise practically impossible to file all the returns if we all start feeding each and every details. And therefore, to a greater extent, we have to rely on the judgment and the accuracy of our staff, and that training in respect of this is also very, very critical. I will discuss about this. So that if you see the consequences, direct consequences of penalty or something normally arises only if there is an error in the computational data which result into computation of income or taxes, or different variation in computation of income or taxes. Now, and that is the reason we are more, very much more, I would say, conscious while preparing these details. And rest all details, though they are important from various perspectives, but they really will not attract penalty for misreporting or for inaccurate reporting or for non-reporting or whatever reason. At best, what may happen is that a department may send us a notice that your return is can be treated as defective return, or is a defective return because these are the information not provided by you. We can provide this information and they regularize the return. So as such, there is no specific penalty under the law for providing inaccurate particulars of the information, non-computational information in the return. Okay. And that's why in many cases, the people, even if they are not very particular in filing these other details, or there are some errors also in the details, normally it doesn't really matters. However, of course, it makes a big difference when the department AI system, the department investigation wing, okay, the department's other units are working on the back end to investigate, to profile the SSE, or to cross check the things. And at that point in time, all this information makes a big difference, because if there are some, let's say, information available regarding some bank accounts, you have disclosed those bank accounts in your ITR, all the bank account disclosure. And if they find that this is disclosed, probably they will not proceed with any further inquiry if it is not available. So this is how normally this data is used, and that is the reason we can't say really that non-reporting of this data or incorrect reporting of the other financial data is not very critical. It is critical, but of course it will not really result into any immediate tax liability on the SSE or penalties on the SSE. And that is the reason many a times we are not very much conscious about such details. However, there is one such disclosure which is basically not impacting your computation of income, but it has a great consequences as far as the tax liability or the penalties are concerned. So you will see nowadays the laws are also passed in a manner that one particular law has a provision which talks about some other law. For example, if you see MSME, it says that any interest paid to an MSME for delay in payment would not qualify as deduction under income tax. Now that provision is not under income tax, that provision is under MSME law. Okay. Similarly, there is a provision under the Black Money Act regarding reporting of financial or foreign assets. So as you are aware, this foreign asset has taken up dominance as far as the media and politics is concerned, that so much thousands of crores are there, and this money, if comes, each Indian would probably be eligible for 15 lakhs. That was a number in the sense to give us a sense as to how much wealth is stashed there. And that is where in the series of various steps taken by the government of India, one of the thing was they passed the Black Money Act. And it provided that there has to be a disclosure of foreign assets in your income tax return. Okay. And if this disclosure is not given, or is disclosure is inaccurately given, then there will be a penalty of rupees 10 lakhs per return. Okay. And the prosecution provision will also get triggered, and the prosecution is from 6 months to 7 years. So these were the provisions introduced in the Black Money Act. If you see the Income Tax Act, there are no provisions regarding foreign assets. Now, because of this, many times it happens. I have seen practically that people just miss out on reporting of the foreign asset, basically predominantly for the reason that the SSE has not shared it, because SSE is not aware about this. SSE don't want to share what he has earned outside India or what asset he has outside India for whatever reason, or many times the SSE is also not aware, because suppose he was in multinational company and He was in the multinational company, and thereafter he was allotted some ESOP. He worked there, and then he came to India. He settled in India, and he's working in India. He's not even aware that he has some ESOPs which are lying there, which will be encashed at some point in time in future. They are lying there because he has not informed his consultant. It was not captured in his ITR. Subsequently, the income tax department got an information from various countries saying that okay, on this PAN number or this citizen, Indian citizen with this PAN, these are the shares which are there in our account or on our records. So because these were not reported in the ITR, the penalty of 10 lakh rupees per year was charged, and probably for 4 years, 5 years, because in 2021-22, this was almost 5-6 years of reporting. So the penalty of up to 60 lakhs were charged on the SSC. And once this kind of penalties are levied, it is very, very difficult to get it deleted. So many a times it has happened. I have seen that just because this foreign asset schedule information is not readily available, though it is not impacting your computation of income directly, or because the SSC is unaware, or because it was not specifically questioned to him, he has not shared it. So I thought that let's try and discuss this foreign asset schedule requirement and specific provisions concerning the same, so understand it in the right perspective. Okay, so under the Black Money Act, so what it provides, that you have to report all asset outside India. Now the asset here is not only financial asset, it talks about any and every kind of asset technically. If you see, we will discuss what are the types of assets which are covered. Almost all direct, whether you are owner, whether you are beneficiary owner, whether you are settler, trustee, beneficial, or whether you are a signing authority in the bank, everything has to be disclosed in the particular schedule, that is FA schedule we call it. Okay, every year. Failure will attract penalties. Okay, so however, the law provides that the disclosure is required only by a resident, which means a resident company, a resident partnership firm, all other cases. In the case of an individual and HUF, the status is ROR or RNOR or NR. There are three status. In all other cases, the status, there are two status, resident or non-resident. For individual and HUF, the status is resident and ordinary resident, resident but not ordinary resident, and non-resident. So this reporting is not applicable in the case where the SS is RNOR, that is resident but not ordinary resident, and resident. So in such SSC's cases, the disclosure of foreign asset is not required. In all other cases, and the disclosure of foreign asset is required. Now let's see the provision to get the perspective as to how it works. So the Black Money Undisclosed Foreign Income and Assets Act and Imposition of Tax Act 2015, Section 42 is the section which talks about. Now one more important things, yeah, before we discuss this provision, one more important thing which we should know is, just one second. Yeah, which we should know is that under the Income Tax Act, normally we say that if you don't have a taxable income or if your income doesn't exceed basic exemption limit, you are not required to furnish your return of income, which is true as per Section 139. However, as per the Black Money Act, if you have a foreign asset outside India, even and you are resident, full resident and ordinary resident, I'm talking of an individual case here, you have to file your return of income even though you don't have any taxable income in India or outside India. Okay, so whenever if you realize that your clients' children have been outside India, they stayed outside India or went outside India for some work and they are back now and they don't have any income or something, or they are not filing the return, please inquire with them whether they are resident. If yes, then please ask them to file the return even though their taxable income in India in that year is nil or less than 2,50,000 rupees. Because the moment an SSC has an asset outside India, it is mandatory for him to file a return in India. So Section 42 of the Black Money Act provides for the penalty for failure to furnish return in relation to foreign income and asset. So it says that if any person, as we discussed, being a resident other than not ordinary resident, having any asset, okay, outside India, holding, and who is required to furnish a return of income for any previous year as required, fails to furnish such return before the end of the relevant assessment year, the assessing officer may direct that such person shall pay by way of penalty a sum of rupees 10 lakhs. So failure to furnish will attract the penalty of 10 lakhs rupees. However, when the issue was raised with the department, that many a time it happens that the students who go there and study and then they come back, they normally maintain a small account there. Okay. Now, failure to furnish information, and many times people forget about that there is some account which is there. They come to India, they are settled in India, but that account is still there with some small balance. So they came out with a proviso saying that if you have one account, two account, five account, whatever number of accounts you have, no problem. If the aggregate value of that balance, of the balance in those account, okay, does not exceed 500,000 rupees at any time during the previous year. So you have to, for the year, you have to see from April to March. At any point in time, the balance is not in excess of 500,000 rupees, that is 5 lakh rupees. Then this provision is not applicable, even though it is not disclosed. There is no consequences of penalty. But it is applicable only in respect of bank account. If you have any asset, say suppose if you have gold there, or if you have some shares there, whose value is less than 5 lakhs, sorry, no exemption is available. The exemption from penalty is available only in respect of the bank account. And the reason why they came out with this exclusion was specifically this, that normally students go there, they stay there, and when they are back, they maintain the account, because once the account is open there, they don't want to close the account, so, and normal balance is kept. So you can have up to 500,000 without being worried about the disclosure part of it. So this section 42 talks about penalty for failure to furnish. Okay. Section 43 talks about that if you have furnished the return, but the information concerning the foreign assets either are not furnished, or if they are furnished, okay, the particulars are inaccurate. And not only non-furnishing, but if you are giving the information and this information is incorrect, then also the penalty can be invoked. Again, the same provision, exactly the same provision as we seen. If any person being a resident other than not ordinary resident fails to furnish any information or furnish inaccurate particulars in such return relating to any asset, including financial asset located outside India, held by him, or relating to any income from source located outside India at any time during the previous year, the assessing officer may direct that such person shall pay by way of a penalty a sum of 10 lakh rupees. Again, the same exemption is available, that up to 500,000 if the amounts are in the bank, then up to 5,000 rupees, they are non-disclosure would not attract any penalty. Now, apart from this penalty, there is also a provision under the Black Money Act regarding prosecution. And after this penalty, if the assessing officer is of the view that okay, this case is fit for prosecution for whatever reason, one of the common reason could be that the amount which is lying in that foreign account or the asset in foreign is not accounted for, or you are not able to establish the source of that asset. So normally in such cases, they will also initiate prosecution proceedings in which the imprisonment is from 6 months to 7 years. So that's a quite severe provision, and for both, for non-filing of return or for failure to furnish the return. Okay. Now, so if you see the disclosure requirement under fixed asset, I'll just share with you the form just for our better understanding. Just 1 second. I'll open the screen. Is my screen visible?
Sir.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a typical schedule in your ITR, okay, which contains into 8 categories. So it starts with details of foreign assets, schedule FA. So A1, A2, A3, A4, B, C, D, E, F, and G. These are the various categories of the assets and the various information. If you see, the common information is name of the country, country code, name of the institution or financial institution, address, account number, and then it talks about whether income has been earned, nature of asset, type of asset, and all this information. Okay, so we have to go through this, identify to which schedule our asset belongs, and then start feeding the information. Now, if you see carefully, the disclosure required is for the calendar year ending on 31st day of December 2022. Now, this is very critical. Till I think assessment year 21-22, it was financial year, and we used to give information concerning April to March, and that used to be easier for us because we used to we maintain books of accounts in India for April to March. So you look at your accounts and just capture the information and give it here. But now they started finding it difficult, because in most of the foreign countries the calendar year concept is followed. So they were finding it difficult to match the information, and you have disclosed it, it's not available there, or you have not disclosed it, it is available there. So there are many synchronization issue as far as the data was concerned. So now they came out with the requirement that you have to give the information for the calendar year. Now this becomes a little challenge, because the data which we have, the bank account which we have captured, the details we have captured in our books of accounts is for the financial year 2022-2023. But the data which you have to provide here is for 1st January 22 to 31st December 22, which means you need the data of 2 financial year, 21-22 financial year का 3 महीना and 22-23 financial year का 9 months. तो ये 2 पीरियड का डाटा आपको लेके आना है, इसको क्लब करके वो इंफॉर्मेशन को एक्सट्रैक्ट करके इधर डालना है. तो दिस इज समथिंग व्हिच वी हैव टू डू मैन्युअली. You will not be able to extract this from the financial data directly, and if you fail to do that, then it will amount to inaccurate particulars being provided in the schedule, and then the department or the officer may levy penalties. So this is something which I think we all should note, that this is 31st December 22, and we should be very, very careful about computing the information. Now, since this schedule is very critical, any error in this schedule may attract huge penalties on the client. We need to be extra focused and extra careful about this schedule, and that is the reason we should have some standard operating procedure as far as schedule FA is concerned. In our mail, whenever we write to the client that your return is due, you have to provide these details in a very bold and prominent way, bold letters and prominent manner. We should mention that in case you have any foreign asset or asset outside India, you are requested to provide the details, as there is a requirement so and so. There is a penalty of so and so under this. The non-failure to provide this would attract the penalty. So moment you share with them, definitely the client will think about it. Okay, there is a penalty if there are any assets, so he will think about it, and then he will share the data. If despite that the client is not sharing the data, then at least we are relieved. In future, if at all any penalty or any proceedings are initiated, the SSC can't or client can't say that, oh, you should have communicated to me or you should have mentioned it to me, and that is the reason, rather than talking all these things or mentioning this over phone, or you can mention it over phone, but have a practice of writing it an email and keeping that copy of email on the record. If the SSC has not provided the information or has denied that I don't have any asset, number one. Number two, even if the SSC provides the information, please verify this information from the source document. Just don't rely on what SSC is giving, because the disclosure you will see here is a very technical disclosure. It's not that easy, and you have to give peak balance, you have to go closing balance, and this balance has to be given in INR. The data is available in dollar. Okay, so that conversion, peak balance, closing balance as on what date? So here the closing balance should be 31st December 22. Then regarding what is the income credited paid during the period, this column of gross interest income would be part of your computation, and it will reconcile, and you should ensure that this reconciles with your computation. So this information, not only you should get it from the client, but please try and ensure that you verify this from the source document to ensure that there are no mistakes. And you can mention to the client that you have to provide the source document also for verification. Otherwise, if there are some mistakes, still there can be the penal consequences. Now, as regards bank account, many a times you can capture it from your books if they are maintained, or the SSC can provide you the bank statement. Many a time there are some information which is to be disclosed, which normally are not captured in the books directly, like your interest in some partnership firm, or you are a signatory. The most important thing, if you see, you have taken an insurance, not accounted for. You paid the premium, debited to drawings, but there is an insurance policy you taken outside India that has to be disclosed. Or many times there is a trust which is created in which the SSE either is a settler so the client wrote to everybody has a foreign account in outside India. So the bank communicated to them that though your name is not added as a joint holder, but since the you are a third party who is authorized to authorize the transaction, a you have the online access in your name, you can access that account, use the account, and therefore you will be considered as signatory for this purpose. So when they shared with us, so we because he or she was also not aware that she is a signatory there, because she is not physically signing any checks. Obviously, because they are sitting in India, account is in UK. Okay, so in this year while reporting, we have reported all this. So in all the account, all the family members are signatory. So in each member's account, we are disclosing that okay, in the signing authority, we are the authority. This happens many a time with a person who is employed with a multinational company outside India. There he was authorized to sign a check. Then he resigned, or he is deputed to India. He comes back to India. That's the end of it. His signature, and he is deputed, so he will go again after his work is done. He comes to India and his signature is still there. For whatever reason, he becomes resident. Now, for him to remember that there is a signing authority which was there is sometime many a time this reporting many a times goes off the radar, because ये डाटा कहीं पर अवेलेबल नहीं होता, क्योंकि इसमें कोई अपना ओनरशिप नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है. However, in my view, non-disclosure of signing authorities would not attract penalty, under section 42, 43 of the Black Money Act, because they talks about asset being owner or a beneficial owner. So here I am not a owner, but nevertheless the disclosure is then incomplete. To that extent, the department may proceed and say no, disclosure not given correctly, we will initiate. You never know. So to be on a safer side, a specific query should also be asked that if you are a signing authority in any other bank account, kindly provide the relevant information. So this is how the schedule looks like. I'm sure you all must have seen it, but अगर किसी को कोई exposure नहीं मिला, तो this is how the schedule looks. Then it talks about custodial account. Custodial account are like your demat account, investment accounts, where your shares and securities are held on your behalf. Okay. Foreign equity and debt, shares and debentures held outside India. Foreign cash value insurance contract and annuity contract. Financial interest in any entity. I am a partner in LLP or a partner in a firm or a shareholder of a company. That financial interest will come here. If I am holding any immovable property at any point in time. Now, please remember the word you say any point in time during the calendar year. So it is possible that January, February, March, I was owner of some asset which I have disposed in last year only. From April onwards, there are absolutely zero asset outside India. However, for the purpose of reporting, please remember you will have to report here, because your reporting period for the purpose of this schedule is January to December. So even though in your April to March books, there are no assets, obviously, because if you see your balance sheet, there are no assets, there are no foreign assets, no foreign bank, nothing, everything has been shut, everything is closed last year. between January to March. So in your books, this balance sheet you will not find anything. So that doesn't mean that you have seen balance sheet और नहीं है तो इसके लिए report नहीं किया, because the reporting period here is different than your balance sheet reporting period, and that is the reason to that extent there may be a mismatch which we need to be little careful about, and we should ask a very specific question that January to March तक का क्या status है, या last March का भी हमको balance sheet दे दो, या January से March का transaction का पूरा detail दे दो कि what were the assets available. So last year भी आप देखोगे अगर अकाउंट क्लोज किया होगा तो कहीं ना कहीं बुक्स में एंट्री दिखेगी, बैलेंस शीट में दिखेगा, प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस में दिखेगा, प्रॉफिट और सेल व्हाटएवर इट इज. So this is how you will have to actually look at 2 financial years to cover the reporting requirement, because your period of 12 months fall in 2 financial year, 3 months in financial year 1 and 9 months in financial year 2. So please you should not only look at one balance sheet, but you should also look at the other balance sheet if you want to identify the foreign asset from the balance sheets. Then you will see uh, details of any other capital asset. Now this is where they include anything and everything. Any other capital asset, as you know the definition of capital asset, except for stock in trade, everything is capital asset. Okay. Then details of account in which you have signing authority. Now the reporting here is to be done only and only of the accounts other than the accounts which are reported here in A2, A1 sorry. So A1 में अगर आपने अकाउंट को डिस्क्लोज कर दिया है तो फिर से आपको यहाँ पर डिस्क्लोज नहीं करना है, बिकॉज वहां आ गया तो यहाँ नहीं आएगा वो, बिकॉज यहाँ पर वही एसेट आएगा जहाँ पर आप ओनर नहीं हो बट साइनिंग अथॉरिटी हो. जैसे मैंने आपको एम्प्लॉय का एग्जांपल दिया है, दैट एम्प्लॉय का सिग्नेचर है उधर और एम्प्लॉय ने भी रिजाइन कर दिया है, बट स्टिल उसका सिग्नेचर उधर से डिसकंटिन्यू नहीं किया है, या अर्लियर ईयर का इंक्वायरी आया है, तो देन दिस रिपोर्टिंग वुड हेल्प. सो डिटेल्स ऑफ अकाउंट which you have signing authority at any time during the calendar year. Please again remember this is calendar year, not financial year. And details of this is also important again, details of trust created under law of a country outside India in which you are a trustee, beneficiary or a settler. Now this information again would not be available. This information would again not be available in your financials, obviously, because if I am a settler, financial में entry नहीं आएगा. If I am a trustee, financial में obviously नहीं आएगा, या beneficiary का भी नहीं आएगा, unless beneficiary को कोई पैसा मिला तो अलग बात है, otherwise generally this information would not be captured, and therefore you cannot. The reason why I am every time referring to it is because normally we have a tendency, if the books are maintained, to look at the balance sheet and conclude what are the foreign assets. You can do that, but that can only be indicative of the list. You may cover 80-90% of the asset, but you cannot be you can't be sure that all assets are covered, and that's why you should specifically ask the pointed question that kindly identify the assets in each category and let us know. Even though they are in balance sheet, get it from the client, get it verified from the client. And the last but not the least, details of any other income derived from any source outside India which is not included in one item A to F above, and income under that business or profession. So if there are any income which are other than this activity, कि उधर कोई प्रोफेशनल सर्विस मैंने रेंडर किया है इंडिया से और उधर मुझे कुछ इनकम मिला हुआ है, ओके, आई हैव अर्नड आउटसाइड इंडिया from a source outside India which is not included in A to above a business profession, then you can provide the information here, whether taxable in your hands and if offered, where it has been offered. Okay, so this is, though it looks a very simple schedule, but when you start filling it, because the kind of information they ask, the way in which they have asked, many times it becomes very complicated how to report this. For example, I'll give you an example. Suppose if there is a joint account is held by husband, wife is a joint holder. Normally it happens because if anything happens to husband, if there is a joint account holder, so the account can be operated, or if it's not available, he can't sign, or he is deceased. Okay. Now how to report? अभी normally you will say ये account में पूरा का पूरा पैसा husband का लगा हुआ है, तो husband के books में आएगा. But now if you see, she is a beneficial interest, she has a beneficial interest, though she may not be the entire ownership of the asset, but she has a beneficial interest in the account. She can withdraw the money, she can transfer the money. तो उसके अकाउंट में भी दिखाना है, तो अमाउंट कितना दिखाना है, उसमें भी 100 दिखाना है, इसमें भी 100 दिखाना है क्या? क्लोजिंग बैलेंस, वो समझो आपके बैलेंस में $100,000 का बैलेंस है, तो $100,000 उधर भी दिखाना और इधर भी दिखाना है, तो $2 लाख हो जाएगा. तो व्हाट इज द करेक्ट पोजीशन? नाउ देयर इज नो सच क्लैरिटी अवेलेबल एज टू एग्जैक्टली कैसे करना है, बट देन वी गो बाय आवर अकाउंटिंग सेंस एंड कमर्शियल सेंस एंड कॉमन सेंस. ओके, एंड in one case when I was faced with this, so we decided that what we will do is we'll identify that what are the transactions done by husband and what are the transactions done by wife इन दिस अकाउंट एंड पर्टेनिंग एंड उतना बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स भी अलग अलग मेंटेन करेंगे, तो वो एक अकाउंट को दो में स्प्लिट कर दिया, हस्बैंड के बुक्स में एक पार्ट आता है और वाइफ के बुक में एक पार्ट आता है जो वाइफ से रिलेटेड है, अगर नहीं है तो कुछ नहीं आएगा, 0 आ जाएगा, या 100 रुपीज हमने डाल के रखा था चलो उतना कंटिन्यू करने के लिए, एंड क्लोजिंग बैलेंस मैच करने के लिए दोनों का क्लोजिंग बैलेंस ऐड करोगे तो मैच हो जाएगा, एंड जितना जितना ट्रांजेक्शन रिपोर्ट हुआ है वो रिस्पेक्टिव इस पे करते हैं। व्हेन इट कम्स टू पीक बैलेंस, तो पीक बैलेंस हम दिखाते हैं ट्रांजेक्शन बैंक स्टेटमेंट का, बिकॉज डिपार्टमेंट नॉर्मली वो पीक बैलेंस से भी वेरीफाई करती है काफी बार कि व्हाट्स गोइंग ऑन और वेदर इट इज रिपोर्टेड करेक्टली और नॉट, तो पीक बैलेंस वी आर रिपोर्टिंग एज पर द एक्चुअल पीक बैलेंस इन द बैंक स्टेटमेंट, और बाकी हम लोग दिखा रहे हैं क्लोजिंग बैलेंस कितना मेरा बैलेंस है, हस्बैंड का बैलेंस हस्बैंड में, वाइफ का बैलेंस वाइफ में, इनकम क्रेडिटेड जितना उसमें से हस्बैंड के पास इनकम गया हस्बैंड के इसमें दिखाते हैं, वाइफ में गया वो वाइफ के पास दिखाते हैं। सो when we start preparing these details now, many a time we find so many questions which otherwise are not very clear how to do it. So CBDT came out with the instruction for filing the ITR in 2021-22. उसके बाद कोई detailed instruction नहीं है. That instruction is available on your income tax, our income tax website. If you go into ITR 3, तो दिखाता है 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24 और कोई भी ITR में जाओ for that matter. 21, 22 में instruction for filling ITR दिया हुआ है. For ITR 3, the instruction is of 231 pages. So काफी बार अगर आपको कहीं पर भी ITR में दिक्कत आ जाती है and you are not sure exactly कैसे करना है, तो please go to that instruction, check if a specific solution is available to your query, then please use that, because that has been official publication by the CBDT, given an instruction. So that action would be more in sync with your software, with your interpretation, and in future if the issue arises, you can always say that आपके instruction में ऐसा लिखा है हमने ऐसा किया, they can't say कि आपने क्या सोच के कर दिया ऐसा. So that instruction is very critical whenever you are caught up in some technical issue as far as the written filling of return is concerned, and you are not sure exactly क्या देना है, and you think that ये भी हो सकता है, ये भी हो सकता है, ऐसा भी हो सकता है. So I would suggest that before using common sense or commercial sense, let's go to the instruction of CBDT, check what is given there, and accordingly take the call. If it is silent about this issue or that issue has not been captured by the instruction, then yes, they can go to step 2, check out with the friends, colleagues as to how this issue is done. If they are also not aware, then go for the best way in which you can give maximum disclosure, because the whole objective is here to give disclosure. So the disclosure, the action which will give more disclosure should be preferred, because इसमें तो कोई tax liability आता नहीं, आपने अगर amount अलग ज़्यादा भी दिखा दिया, as long as it is supported with some document, there is no direct tax liability. तो disclosure में कोई compromise नहीं करना है. अगर कोई disclosure देना है, आपको लगता है doubt है देऊ कि नहीं दो, तो मेरे हिसाब से दे दो. Whenever in doubt, err in favor of the department as far as FA schedule is concerned, because FA schedule has no implication on your taxable income. Okay, so coming back to our presentation, just give me 1 second. I will. Yeah. So categories of foreign assets, I've just tabulated it. So just for the ready reference, we have already discussed depository account, saving term deposit. I have given some examples of the assets, signing authority trust where you are so and so, so and so. So you discussed all these categories. So important things to be considered. Of course, ownership status you have to consider, because whether you are legal owner, beneficial owner, or just a signing authority, accordingly the disclosure and the column and the information will change. Reporting period, as I discussed, is calendar year. This is very critical, because many a times we don't realize that a calendar year again, we are so used to, and obviously to understand the concept or the report everything from the financial year perspective, and we rely on our books of accounts to report the transactions. So it is quite possible that there may be a mismatch in the actual numbers and the number reported because of the mismatch in the financial year and calendar year. So calendar year is the period of reporting. Now all this asset outside India obviously would be in foreign currency, but the reporting you see in FA schedule is in INR. तो इसका जो कन्वर्जन का बेसिस है वो क्या है, तो उसका एक the instructions and from the Black Money Act and various places, एक टेबुलेशन किया हुआ है कि पीक बैलेंस रिपोर्ट करना है तो क्या करना है, तो जो डेट को आपका पीक बैलेंस हुआ है वो डेट का एसबीआई का, स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया का टेलीग्राफिक ट्रांसफर बाइंग रेट, दिस इज अ टीटीबीआर वी यूज generally under income tax act wherever it is required. And one important fun fact or information for you to know, that whenever there is an income which is earned outside India and you need to convert that income into INR, okay, so the question arises what should be the conversion rate, because income is an ongoing process. तो जो दिन को पैसा मिला वो लेना है, कि जो दिन को अक्रू हुआ है वो लेना है, कि जो दिन को रिसीवेबल हुआ है वो लेना है, यानी जो दिन को ड्यू हुआ है वो लेना है, व्हाट इज द डेट, तो यू हैव टू रिफर टू रूल 115 income tax rules. As a rule 115, that rule covers a specific provision कि सैलरी इनकम होगा तो कैसे कन्वर्ट करना है, बिजनेस इनकम को कैसे करना है, कैपिटल इनकम को कैसे करना है, ईच हेड वाइज उन्होंने दिया हुआ है. सो वेन एवर यू हैव टू ऑफर income in India which was earned in foreign currency, please refer to rule 115. वहां पर आपको सारा इंफॉर्मेशन मिल जाएगा, एग्जैक्टली उसको कन्वर्जन कैसे करना है, कौन से डेट का रेट लेना है और क्या बेसिस पे लेना है, सो दैट देर इज नो नॉन कंप्लायंस. सपोज डॉलर का रेट चेंज हो गया, 70 रुपीज से 85 हो गया, आपने 70 का बेस लेके इनकम ऑफर कर दिया, बट एज पर रूल 115 इट शुड हैव बीन 85 getting, then there is a huge difference between 85 and 70, which is almost 20%. So please ensure your conversion is in accordance with rule 115. For the purpose of schedule FA, TTBR, that is telegraphic transfer buying rate of SBI, is to be considered. पीक बैलेंस जो करना है, जो डेट का पीक बैलेंस है उस डेट का करना है. वैल्यू ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट जब हमको डिस्क्लोज करना है तो जो डेट को हमने इन्वेस्टमेंट किया हुआ है एंड नॉट अ करंट वैल्यू, अगर मैंने ओरिजिनल इन्वेस्टमेंट 2018 में किया है तो वो तब का जो मेरा डॉलर कॉस्ट है, दैट कॉस्ट हैज टू बी रिपोर्टेड, और वो डेट का जो कन्वर्जन रेट है वो रेट से मुझे रिपोर्ट करना है. तो टेक्निकली 2016 के बाद अगर है और इन्वेस्टमेंट में मूवमेंट नहीं तो सेम वैल्यू विल बी रिपोर्टेड एवरी ईयर, बिकॉज आई हैव टू कंसीडर TTBR of the date on which the investment was made. And foreign sourced income का रिपोर्टिंग जैसे क्लोजिंग डेट पे इसका कर दो, क्लोजिंग बैलेंस क्लोजिंग डेट पे कर दो. तो दिस इज जस्ट some of the instances I have given for the conversion purpose, because the reporting here is not in foreign currency but is in INR. Consequences क्या है इसके, as we discussed, foreign assets penalties हैं 10 lakh rupees, imprisonment है up to 7 years, and DTA का benefit available नहीं होगा, because if you are not disclosing the asset, not disclosing the income, then you will not be eligible to claim DTA का benefits. Points for discussion में भी हम लोग ने in passing references ये discuss किया हुआ है कि joint owner होगा तो क्या करना है, reporting of beneficiary, trustee, settler. And why I have categorically mentioned this, because I have seen many a time this information, specifically this trustees का या settler का या beneficiary का, is missed out because it is not a financial information technically. And somebody, suppose my grandfather has created a trust for me outside India and I'm not even aware, and I have been made the beneficiary when I was say 3-5 years old. My grandfather decided that okay, I need to keep something for my grandchildren, so he created a trust, made some bank in UK a trustee, and my name is given as a beneficiary. So many times happen that है उधर मुझे पता है, of course I can't say that मुझे पता है नहीं, मुझे पता है, but ठीक है, वो जब पैसा आएगा तब आएगा, अभी तो पैसा है नहीं, उसमें लिखा है जब तक 28 years का नहीं हो जाते तब तक उनको पैसा नहीं देना है, तब तक वो अक्रू होगा वहाँ पर. So and 28 years के बाद भी, since I didn't need the money, so I never asked the trustees to pay me the money, and it's lying there. But this reporting has to be done, and because it is lying there and it is never been captured, it cannot be captured in the books जब तक उधर से पैसा नहीं आएगा. You as a trustee or beneficiary, and if you are trustee also or beneficiary or settler, you will have to report this. And I am more worried when it comes to FA schedule about the transaction which are non-financial transaction but has to be reported. Reporting by a person having signing authority. Again, this is not a financial transaction, and therefore many times it is never captured in your books of accounts. And for us to prepare any schedule for the financial assets, it is our base would always be base will always be our books of accounts. Otherwise it's impossible. There are hundreds and thousands of transactions happening throughout the year. What we do is we get P&L account and balance sheet. We don't really get the books of accounts. We get P&L balance sheet which contains the entire summary of the whole year, and based on that we normally report everything. But yes, there are 3 or 4 such transactions where only books of accounts would not work, and therefore, as a as an prudent practice, get the information from the SSC, get the source data, verify it, prepare it, send it to the client specifically. It is separate mail, not as a general mail. कि आप verify करो return. Separate mail that kindly verify the fixed asset schedule which is attached herewith. Kindly note that any error would attract penalty, or misinformation or misreporting would attract penalty. So you are requested to kindly verify and check and confirm if it is in order and correct. So what happens the moment you say 10 lakh penalty, the SEC or client also becomes very, very alert. And clients are always aware about their foreign assets. Obviously, we can't say that हमको पता नहीं कहाँ का पैसा पड़ा. Even Mukesh Ambani is aware of all his foreign assets. One has to be, na? Because foreign में जब asset हो, it can't be like 10,000 rupees पड़ा होगा, 20,000. It is always in millions, at least. You can't have a foreign asset of 50,000 rupees. वो ठीक है, student loan वगैरह होगा तो 5 लाख तक तो उन्होंने exam भी किया हुआ है. But generally it will be high value transaction. So SSC is all aware. So once you tell them, so then they seriously look at it. They verify it from their records. And I have seen many a times what we prepare to then send it to them. They come out with some addition, deletion to that reporting, saying that नहीं इसमें ऐसा change कर दो, इसमें ये कर दो. And because they have sanctioned it, if anything goes wrong with the FA schedule in future during scrutiny or during any proceedings, at least you have taken all protection or all due care to ensure that this was accurate, and the SSC has also given his comments. So this is very, very important. Still, please start the practice of when you send return of income, FA schedule को अलग से डाल के अलग से उसके लिए पैराग्राफ करके बोल्ड करके करो. एंड अगर क्लाइंट सेंसिटिव है, क्लाइंट बड़ा है, यू नो दैट इसके बहुत ट्रांजैक्शन हो सकते हैं, तो उसको फोन करके अलग से समझा भी दो. यानी इट्स अवर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी टू इन्फॉर्म आवर क्लाइंट्स, because the clients are not aware of all the Black Money Act, Money Laundering Act, Income Tax. There are hundreds of acts and so many provisions. We chartered accountants nowadays get confused as to which provision is applicable where and how to deal with all these things. So we can't expect a normal layman to be well versed with the provision. So it is our responsibility to train them, to at least explain it to them. And they are all smart. Businessmen are normally much more smarter than the professionals, because they are doing much more challenging things than what we are doing. So they understand the thing, but you need to explain it to them in timely manner. Please remember, in timely manner. You can't be explaining to them after everything is done. And even after filing the return, if you realize that there is some error which has happened, समझो आपने कोई रिटर्न फाइल कर दिया और अभी आपको आज सुनने के बाद लगा हाँ यार ये तो हमने किया ही नहीं है, डोंट वरी, अभी भी देरी नहीं हुई है, प्लीज अभी भेज दो एसएससी को, कंफर्मेशन ले लो. अगर चेंज होता है तो यू कैन रिवाइज द रिटर्न ओनली टू चेंज getting the foreign asset disclosure. And I'll give you a fun fact here again. In one of the case, my client came and said that मेरा son जो नॉन रेसिडेंट था वो इंडिया में आके रहा है, बट उसका ना लास्ट 2 साल में वो रेसिडेंट हो गया, तो उसका कुछ एसेट्स था वो हमने इंडिया में डिस्क्लोज नहीं किया है. सो अभी वो टाइम तो चला गया है. हाउ टू डू दैट? नाउ ऑब्वियसली वी रिव्यूड द रिटर्न एंड वी फाउंड आउट दैट देयर आर सम इनकम, इंटरेस्ट इनकम एंड सम अदर इनकम बैंक में कुछ आया हुआ था जो ऑफर नहीं किया था उन्होंने. There were some deductions which he has claimed for other income which should not have been claimed. Okay, so we suggested to them that ye hai, you can file a enhanced return, that new return which has come, I forget the name, but anyway that return which you can file with additional tax payment, because that is open for 1, 2, 3 years तक open है वो. So वो return जब file करने के लिए दिया तो उसमें disclosure डाल दिया, that's end of it. So at least वो record पे आ गया अभी. So अगर वो डेट के बाद ओके अभी रिटर्न फाइल किया उसके बाद इंक्वायरी आता कोई इशू नहीं है, फिर देन दैट विल कंसीडर एज वैलिड बिकॉज़ द रिटर्न हैज बीन फाइल्ड. बट अगर इंक्वायरी आता है और उसके बाद आप फाइल करते हो तो देन दैट इज नॉट वैलिड. प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड दैट कि अगर इन्वेस्टिगेशन विंग से आपको नोटिस आता है कि आपका फॉरेन एसेट्स के बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन दिखाओ, कौन सा एसेट्स है, एंड देन यू रियलाइज कि अरे ये तो हमने डिस्क्लोज किया ही नहीं था, अभी मैं रिवाइज करता हूँ रिटर्न या एनहांस्ड रिटर्न जो भी है दैट में फाइल कर देता हूँ. ओके, modified return वो फाइल करके I will disclose it, then this will not work, because the provision law provides that after the notice is issued or after the investigation has started, if this disclosure is done, there is no respect. This will be treated as not been disclosed. And specifically under the Black Money Act, they say that it has to be filed within the end of the assessment year. So अपने पास क्या होता है कि दिसंबर में अपना टाइम बार हो जाता है रिटर्न अभी, एंड असेसमेंट ईयर खत्म होने के 3 महीना है अपने पास. तो यू हैव टाइम टेक्निकली टिल 31st March 24 to revise your return either under the regular provision or the new provisions. by paying extra tax. But after assessment year ends, even though you pay extra tax, it fits into straight penalty. Even if you prove, that this was a contribution or this account was opened out of my taxable income, ये मेरे इंडिया के बैंक में सैलरी आया था, ये बैंक से मैंने LRS में पैसा वहाँ ट्रांसफर किया है और वो पैसा ये है, पूरा कुछ एक्सप्लेन कर दिया, ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, टैक्सेबिलिटी नहीं होगी इनकम की, बट पेनल्टी फॉर नॉन डिस्क्लोजर डेफिनेटली वुड बी डिस्क्लोज्ड. ओके. एंड जब आपको बैंक स्टेटमेंट, स्पेशली बैंक स्टेटमेंट देखते हैं, तो प्लीज चेक वो बैंक स्टेटमेंट में जॉइंट ओनर का नाम दिया है क्या, अगर है, या उनको पूछो इसमें कोई जॉइंट ओनर है कि, नॉर्मली बैंक स्टेटमेंट के ऊपर दिया होता है जॉइंट ओनर, नहीं दिया होगा तो स्पेसिफिकली आस्क अ क्वेश्चन, because if there is a joint owner, then even the joint owner is required to disclose in his FA schedule. And I'll give you an example. Recently I got a notice from department that kindly share with us the details of this bank account and you are the joint owner or you are the owner of the bank. So I asked my client, he said, नहीं मेरे पास ऐसा कोई account नहीं, I have absolutely no account as outside India, etc, etc. So we were also little surprised when I checked with the department as to which account they are referring to. So they gave me a number. When I checked that number, we realized that this account was opened by his dad in somewhere in 2013-14. Okay. And we have been disclosing that account in his FA schedule regularly. Okay. The son's return was filed by some other chartered accountant. It was not filed by us, from us. So we also never realized that वो joint holder है, account holder है. Okay. Only when this notice came, and that chartered accountant refused to handle it, says that I don't handle regularly, so I can't handle it. So it came to us, and then we realized that he was a joint holder of that account, but he has never ever remitted even one single penny to that account or has taken away one single penny out of that account, because that gentleman whose account was operated, he was paralyzed, so he was not able to sign or something. So his name was also added so that कहीं signature वगैरह चाहिए होगा तो वो कर सकता है. That was the only purpose of adding his name. But despite that, he has got the notice, and now we are representing, giving all the excuses, all those submissions and all these things. But in all probability, the department will levy the penalty. We may go to the CIT appeals and plead and may get some relief. But at a department level, for 4 or 5 years, if he has not disclosed that, he will have to bear the burden or the orders of penalty for these 4 or 5 years, 10 lakhs rupees each. So these are the very, very innocuous mistakes. And we have proved that each and every penny in that account has been remitted from India under LRS, from my taxable income. Everything has been captured, everything has been established, and they are saying, okay, we have no problem with that. We agree that it is all your disclosed income. But nevertheless, since you are not reported, now you will have to bear the consequences. Okay. Now, one important thing to note here, that the income tax return from assessment year 14-15 onwards had this FA schedule. Okay. And this Black Money Act came into effect from 1st April 16. Okay. So this penalty provisions gets triggered only from assessment year 16-17 and not before that. So many times we receive the notice, तो 13-14, 14-15 में disclosure में नहीं दिखता है, 14-15, 15-5, 15-16 में. And department normally proceeds saying that अरे देखो आपने disclose नहीं किया, will levy penalty for these 2 years. So you can explain it to them, because the penalty clauses are also very clear that from the date, because ये Black Money Act ही इनको start हुआ है 1/4/2016 से. अरे रवि, या सो 1/4/2016 से हुआ है. इससे बात करो क्या है इसको. हाँ, So 14, 15 and 15, 16 penalty cannot be levied because the law was not in place. So this can be a valid argument, and in some of my cases where this had happened, because when the original FA schedule was disclosed, was started, most of the people have taken the stand that इसका नहीं disclose करने का penalty तो कुछ है नहीं. So why should we disclose? Anything urgent? Why should we disclose? So many people took a conscious call that because it is not there is no penalty, we don't want to disclose. But when from 15, 16 onwards, penal provision आ गया, तो of course we also informed all our clients that अभी penal provision आ गया, अभी non-disclosure will attract a specific mail was written to them, and उसके बाद almost सारे लोगों ने disclose किया because there is a penalty now. So in case अगर आपके पास कोई ऐसा केस आता है या आपके कोई क्लाइंट में आता है कि अर्लियर ईयर के लिए पेनल्टी का नोटिस आपको दिया है, तो प्लीज रिफर टू ब्लैक मनी एक्ट. ब्लैक मनी एक्ट हैज बीन इनकॉर्पोरेटेड और हैज बीन नोटिफाइड फ्रॉम 1 अप्रैल 2016, और उसके पहले की पीरियड के लिए सिंस द लॉ वाज नॉट इन एग्जिस्टेंस, अ पेनल्टी कैनॉट बी लेविड एंड देयर कैनॉट बी अ पेनल्टी विद रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव इफेक्ट, and especially from the year when the law was not in existence. So these are some of the points which I thought that are important for our general understanding of FA schedules. And I think if there are any queries or questions on this till this point in time, I think we can open the floor for questions. And then thereafter we can proceed. Thereafter we can proceed with our subsequent discussion. So I'll just read out some of the questions which has come up here. इसके अलावा भी किसी के भी पास कोई query हो, please feel free, because this session is more of question answer session rather than a discussion, because there is no legal point to discuss. This is general experience we are sharing with each other, getting relearning the whole process and practical aspect of the same. So probably I may get some question which I have never encountered it. Okay, but I will try and give whatever best possible solution to your queries as per my limited knowledge and experience. So let's say, is travel insurance required to be disclosed if I am traveling outside India on vacation for seminar? No. I don't need this. This mediclaim insurance, traveling insurance is not required. Normally, insurance where you are entitled to get returns on your death or on endowment or on expiry of particular period, that insurance, which is can be in the form of an asset, has to be, because not normally people do is insurance ले लेते वहाँ पर और बाद में बोलते insurance से पैसा आया death के बाद. So if suppose I have some income outside India which is unaccounted for, okay, so what I'll do is I'll take pay a premium there and I'll just keep quiet. पैसा पड़ा है उधर. After my death, compensation is received. Now nothing can be done about it. So that is the reason they have now specifically come out with the travel insurance. Yes, not required. For ESOP, in which sub schedule disclosure is required, I would say financial asset. ESOP is nothing but shares, or right for getting the shares. So it has to be disclosed. If they are vested in you, then they are shares. If they are not vested, then there are no assets. It's only a right which you will get in future. So no disclosure required. But once ESOPs are vested in you, once you have opted for it, then it's a financial asset. It has to be disclosed as the financial assets. ESOPs are declared in Form 16. Now, one important thing, the query which is asked here, ESOPs are declared in Form 16. Still, do we need to provide in this schedule? Now, Form 16 is given by an Indian employer. ESOPs, here the ESOPs which we are talking are the ESOPs of a foreign company and not in Indian company. Indian company का ESOP यहाँ पर disclose नहीं होगा. Okay. Assuming है ऐसा कुछ समझो. चलो ठीक है. Foreign asset schedule में you have to disclose the information, even though the similar information has been disclosed or reported in 10 different schedules in the form. What I mean to say, the simplest example I'll give you. If your income exceeds 50 lakhs, you have to give information in an asset liability schedule also. Okay. Now, suppose in that schedule, I have given all the information about my foreign assets, my motor car, my shares, securities. I have given loan. Okay. And I have not given the information in FA schedule. Can I say that FA schedule में तो दिखाया नहीं, कोई बात नहीं, but return में तो दिखाया ना कहीं. So I have disclosed it. I should not be subjected to penalty. No, that is not how it will work. The moment you have a foreign asset, it has to be disclosed in foreign asset schedule. If you fail to disclose there, it's a failure, even though you have disclosed at 10 different places in your ITR itself. So there is no question of ESOP declared in 16 and getting exemption to FA. No, if you are not disclosed, then you will have to face the consequences. If child goes abroad for studies and earns dollar, and while returning back to India brings back luxury white goods such as Rolex watches, Louis Vuitton, wow, does this qualify as capital asset because of large value? No, they are talking about assets outside India. Okay, so when he is earning outside India, normally a student is always a non-resident, because his stay in India cannot be more than 183 days or 120 days. If it is a resident, and he has to disclose all these Rolex watches and everything, if at all he has been able to purchase it. Okay, so there is nothing like personal effect. You have to, though we can use the technical term that capital asset does not include personal effect, that definition, but I will not give such an, this argument I will take only if I have failed to disclose and now there is an issue. अभी रोलेक्स वॉच अगर इंडिया में मिल जाता है ना, तो why we will say that it has come from outside India? We have bought it in India only ना. So practically नहीं होगा, but theoretically yes, अगर ऐसा है, and it is only asset outside India. If the asset is come into India, then FA schedule is not applicable. So the word used in the law is asset outside India. So if you have kept your Rolex watches and Louis Vuitton bags and everything outside India, then probably you have to disclose, and then probably we may take this. These are personal effects. Now, whether jewelry and watches, I don't think will qualify as a personal effect. Okay, because this normally qualifies as jewelry, all these expensive watches, paintings, and all these things. But nevertheless, that's something which is an case which can be argued upon. But if it has been earned from an income which was a legitimate income, then there is no harm in disclosing. Legitimate income in the sense you actually earn the income, which you can show that, okay, I have received these salaries in my bank account. At that point in time, I was non-resident, and therefore this is not disclosed in my return of income. So there is no harm in disclosing it. But of course, yes, asset is bought into India, FA schedule is not applicable. If it is outside India, any other capital asset. Yeah, updated return. I was not able to get the name of. Thank you. Updated return. What is joint owner of FO? Yusuf Beg has asked a question. What is joint owner of FO? It should be FA. Okay. What is joint owner of foreign asset? So joint owner of foreign asset is like a bank account where you have a joint holder. Na? You suppose Mr. A has opened an account and Mrs. A is a joint owner. Both can operate the account, or both are the beneficiary of the account. So that is called joint owner. So if there are joint owner, then each owner has to disclose, because each owner has the beneficiary interest in that asset. SAC is a resident. Shares have been allotted to him in the US based on company through ESOPs. This company in the US follow April to March financial year. Will this be disclosed in part A3 or part D of schedule FA2 if the shares of the company are not listed on a stock exchange anymore and consequently prices are not available in the public domain? What should we take as a peak value? No, their peak value here is not the market value. So his question is, what he's saying, that there is a person resident in India. He has been allotted shares of an American company. Okay, which is a common thing in the case of multinational companies. Okay, and they are not listed, and therefore you don't get the valuation. So how to determine the peak value? So the peak value here means the peak value of your cost of investment. Suppose I have 100 shares. During the year I purchased 30 shares. Okay, and I have sold 10 shares. So the value of 130 shares, what is the peak value? 130 shares. So value of 130 shares will be peak value and not a market value. My cost of that 130 shares. So there may be a movement. So to capture that peak of the movement, they normally have that clause of peak value. So that peak value is not a market value, but my cost. Generally it means that जो point in time पे मेरे पास सबसे ज्यादा shares है, वो दिन का मेरा total investment value क्या है? Explain us about how do business income computation. Explain us about how to do business income computation. What are allowable expenses, disallowable, etc. I think this is a very, very general question. and concerning the second set of it. So I would request this to take up this question in the next session, next discussion, so that we don't lose the connect from our discussion. Krutisha, ESOP is vested, so it will be shown as perquisite in ITR, the year of vested. Yes, of course, it will be shown as perquisite. But if the asset is outside India, then that income has to be also shown in that column, and asset has to be shown in the column. It will be shown. And there is a specific provision for the startups. There is a deferment of taxability. In other cases, you have to pay tax in the year when the ESOPs are allotted to you or vested in you. Mr. A receives ESOPs from employer and the dividend received are reinvested in the same ESOPs and tax is withheld for this dividend. So do we have to report this as income? Of course, it's a reinvestment of dividend. You have one dividend that has been reinvested. So it's like reinvestment of your dividend. You receive the money, you invested it back. तो आपका डिविडेंड इनकम भी दिखेगा, शेयर्स में जो एडिशन हुआ वो एडिशन भी आपको दिखाना पड़ेगा. तो यहाँ पर पीक में आ जाएगा जो भी आपने इन्वेस्ट किया है, तो जो सबसे ज्यादा अमाउंट हुआ है पूरे साल का, दैट अमाउंट विल आल्सो बी रिपोर्टेड इन द पीक बैलेंस. So do we have to report this as an income and any other disclosure for this is required? So FA schedule में you have to disclose dividend income, you have to disclose in your FA schedule opening balance भी होगा. During the year जो आपको shares allot हुए हैं by reinvesting your dividend, even that has to be shown separately. तो वो सब आपको disclosure पूरा देना पड़ेगा, वो peak balance में आ जाएगा आपके. If there is no cost, SS's resident shares have been allotted to him in a US company through ESOP. The company US follows it हो गया ना. Closing value of investment. You can say the actual cost of. Please guide on part 1 of the question. SS is a resident. Shares have been allotted to him in a US-based company through ESOPs. This company in the US follows April to March financial year. Will this be disclosed in part A3 or part D of schedule FA2? What is A3 and AD? Let's see. I'll also have to check. Part A3 and A3 ना shares हैं A3. Salaried person receive ESOPs, foreign investment, disclosure required, amount less than 50 lakhs. ठीक है. My query pertains to capital gains. Capital gains बाद में देखेंगे. So I hope that all your queries are addressed here. If anybody has any query, please you can unmute yourself if that option is available and can mention your query before you proceed to the next session. Chalo, shall we proceed then? Okay. So as far as business income in ITI is concerned, I really don't see any specific discussion point, any legal discussion or understanding, because most of the things are all routine things which you have to. It's more of a information to be provided, and while providing this information, many times we come across various issues and how to resolve those issues. So that is, I will put some light on some of the common queries which have been asked to me in the group, and I'll also try and explain as to how to deal with the orders when they are passed under 143.1. So if you see, the real test of our computation is basically 143.1. Okay, so the moment that order is passed, you know whether your return is pass or fail, in the sense that if there are any additions, any adjustments, then again you have to start the process of identifying vagara vagara. So this all process can, or the addition in 143.1 can be reduced substantially if the form is filled correctly, properly, and more accurately. Okay. So in this series, I have just taken up some of the examples. I would appeal and request to all of you to please put in all your queries, whatever query you have in the question answer box or in your queries chat box. There is, I think, question answer box available. You please put your queries there. We'll take up each one of them and we'll try and discuss that and get some reasonable solution to the queries. But I will discuss some of the point by the time you could think of and give your queries. Section 41 income. Now you know this section 41 income basically is an income which the credit balance or balance written back or data is recovered, all this. So before I go into this, let's try and understand the whole structure in which this ITR has been prepared. This 143.1 is done, because knowing that structure will definitely help us to understand how the process works, and then you will be able in the position to understand that how to we prepare our return in a manner that it is as per the process, or the process will be in sync with what we are doing it. So what process works is, they have amended the law under 143.1 and they have provided that if there is a mismatch in the information provided by you, that mismatch can be the basis of addition. Okay, so originally under 143.1, originally before all this CPC processing, the only adjustment which was possible under 143.1 was arithmetical mistake and apparent mistake. Okay, otherwise you could not make any additions. Then they amended the law and they provided that mismatch होगा 26 years का वो निकाल दिया उन्होंने बाद में, then tax audit का, then internal information. They have given 4 or 5 categories, which means what it's trying to say is that there are various reports which you file along with your income tax return. Even your income tax return itself contains so many data points. Then your tax audit report, you have some 10 AC report, 10 ICAC report, all these various deduction report. So everything will look together, and if there is a problem in reconciling the amounts, then to the extent the amounts are not reconciled, the addition will be made. Okay, so initially we noted that wherever we are offering income, and income under 41.1 has been reported in the tax audit report, in all cases the department was making an addition. Now what happens in the case of 144 is basically the amount is credited to your P&L account, say credit balance written back. Okay, so 5 lakhs rupees is credited to your P&L account. You start with net profit as per P&L account 15 lakhs. Now obviously in that 15 lakhs 5 lakhs is included. Okay, so you make the computation plus minus करके 12 लाख रुपए आपका इनकम आया, आपने टोटल इनकम के ऊपर टैक्स भर दिया, खत्म हो गया. टैक्स ऑडिट रिपोर्ट में 41.1 है. ओके, वहां पर आपने रिपोर्ट कर दिया है. Now what this 143.1 processing does is that it maps कि आपने उधर 41.1 में दिखाया है, ITR में 41.1 में कहीं दिखाया नहीं है, and therefore to that extent आपने इनकम कम डिस्क्लोज किया है. तो वो क्या करता था, वो सीधे एडिशन कर देता था. Now initially we didn't realize कि एडिशन क्यों हो रहा है. हमने तो इनकम ऑफर किया, we used to write to them कि अरे ये देखो इनकम ऑफर किया, आप क्यों एडिशन कर रहे हो. But as you know that machine has no heart, no brain of its own self. Okay, no feelings, nothing, no discretionary power. Whatever has been fed in as a software, it will work that way. So machine पे जाता था, दो कहने के लिए it's a rectification order, but I have never seen a reasoned order or reasoned rectification order from CPC. This is not possible also for one officer to sit and process hundreds and thousands of lakhs of rectification applications. So it is put into the system. They must be doing it, I don't know, but I have never seen a reasoned order. Nevertheless, so then we realize that क्यों हो रहा है. तो जब analysis किया तो one thing we realized that there is something which is not as per the process, and that's why this addition is coming, and not coming only once, it has been coming in all the cases. Then we realized that in your ITR there is a specific item, income under 41.1. Obviously because your income under 41.1 is already credited to P&L account, you are starting with net profit, तो फिर से वो ऐड तो नहीं करोगे आप. दो बार कैसे ऐड कर सकते हो सेम इनकम को, एक बार तो ऑलरेडी क्रेडिट हो चुका है P&L अकाउंट में. सो देन वी थॉट अबाउट इट कि ये कैसे करें, और जब तक उधर नहीं आएगा तब तक वो मशीन बोलेगा देखो आपने टैक्स ऑडिट में रिपोर्ट किया है, इधर रिपोर्ट नहीं किया, मिसमैच है, एडिशन करो. देन वी केम आउट विद अ सॉल्यूशन दैट इन द कंप्यूटेशन व्हाट वी विल डू इज वी विल रिड्यूस द सेम फर्स्ट इनकम टैक्सेबल अंडर अदर कैटेगरी, लेस कर देंगे इनकम को, और फिर 41 में जाके ऐड कर देंगे. तो नेट इंपैक्ट जीरो हो गया, इधर लेस किया उधर ऐड किया, P&L में तो ऑलरेडी क्रेडिट हो चुका है मेरे. Okay, the moment we started doing that, all demand vanished. So what we did is wherever the demand was there, we went into our रिटर्न कंप्यूटेशन में लेस किया, 41 में जाके ऐड किया, एक्सएमएल को रीप्रोसेस किया, देयर वाज नो चेंज इन इनकम, मॉडिफाइड एक्सएमएल अपलोड किया, द मोमेंट वी अपलोडेड इट, इट गॉट प्रोसेस्ड और डिमांड कम होके जीरो के आ गया. So what I'm trying to explain here is that we should go through the entire form in proper detail to ensure that what are the specific items. Okay, and if you have any income pertaining to the specific row or specific item, please ensure that it is disclosed there. If it is not directly possible, use some way of doing it, but please disclose there, because क्या होता है कि अगर कोई specifically information दिया है तो उसका कहीं ना कोई प्रोसेस में लिंक होगा. And specially what you should do is your club expenses, sorry, your tax audit report and whatever report you are giving, वो और आपका computation, ये दोनों का सिंक होना चाहिए. तो वहां पर अगर कोई स्पेसिफिक डिस्क्लोजर है और उससे रिलेटेड कोई स्पेसिफिक आइटम आपके आईटीआर में है, प्लीज एंश्योर दैट दीस आर मैचिंग. ये मैच नहीं होगा, जितनी बार मैच नहीं होगा उतनी बार आपको 143(1) से क्वेरी आएगा ही आएगा. ओके, आई विल गिव अ सिंपल एग्जांपल, क्लब एक्सपेंसेस. नाउ टैक्स ऑडिट रिपोर्ट में हम लोग क्लब एक्सपेंसेस रिपोर्ट करते हैं बिकॉज आवर गाइडेंस नोट सजेस्ट, इंस्टीट्यूट का जो टैक्स ऑडिट पे गाइडेंस नोट है वो सजेस्ट करता है कि जो भी क्लब एक्सपेंसेस होगा वो रिपोर्ट करो यहाँ पर. ओके, नाउ द सॉफ्टवेयर has been programmed to say that if anything is reported in the club expenses, that means that this expense has to be disallowed because this is personal expenses. That is how the software is programmed. I don't know whether they have changed the program now, but I don't think so. So अभी क्या करें इसको? The moment institute बोलता है कि आपको club expenses सारे report करना है, even though it is a business expenditure, but it's a reporting requirement, so you report it. And if you see form 3CD, पर्सनल एक्सपेंसेस का अलग कैटेगरी है, उसके नीचे अलग से क्लब एक्सपेंसेस है. तो क्लब एक्सपेंसेस ओनली रिपोर्टिंग रिक्वायरमेंट, वहां पर ऐसा नहीं बोला कि पर्सनल एक्सपेंसेस रिलेटिंग टू क्लब, ऐसा नहीं, इससे क्लब एक्सपेंसेस, तो इससे डिस्क्लोजर रिक्वायरमेंट. नाउ जस्ट वन सेकंड. नाउ इफ आई डिस्क्लोज दैट, इट जस्ट सेड दैट अरे इधर दिखा दिया आपने, तो इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब ये है कि उधर डिसअलाउ करो. तो क्या करें? सो व्हेन वी डिसाइडेड दैट what they are presuming is that personal expense यहाँ दिखाना है. What the software is presuming that tax audit में club expenses आप तभी दिखाते हो जब वो personal होता है. तो we stopped reporting club expenses and in 3CA 3CB जो हम लोग अपने comments देते हैं उसमें डाल दिया कि club expenses incurred is so and so, which is for the purpose of business. Since the amount is not for personal purposes, the same has not been disclosed in item number so and so, so and so. So at least there is a disclosure. And उसके बाद जब हमने फाइल किया रिटर्न, obviously club expenses में जीरो रिपोर्ट हुआ, तो डिसअलाउंस नहीं हो रहा है. So this is something which we have to relearn from the process, because ITR is more of a process. कि किधर डिस्क्लोज करने से क्या हो रहा है, कहाँ दिखाने से क्या नहीं हो रहा है. I'll give you another simple example and how the things can become messy with CPC. There was a client who filed a return. Let's say he filed a return on 30th September. A return was filed on 30th September. Some refund claim of 3 crore was there. Somewhere in the month of October, November, the management changed. The company was sold to some outsider. The management changed, and the management changed the name, obviously, because there was a deal that we cannot use that old name. So they changed the name. So it was an ABC company. The new management came, they changed the name to XYZ company. The moment the name was changed, okay, वो पैन में भी चेंज करा दिया, सब जगह चेंज कर दिया, पैन में XYZ आ गया. जब ये रिटर्न प्रोसेसिंग में आया तो रिटर्न में नाम लिखा हुआ है ABC, बिकॉज जब रिटर्न फाइल किया तो ABC था. पैन डेटाबेस में नाम लिखा हुआ है XYZ. Now obviously पैन नंबर सेम है, तो दे शुड नॉट हैव रेज्ड दिस क्वेरी, बट दे रेज्ड द क्वेरी दैट आपका नाम, कंपनी का नाम मिसमैच है, ये है वो है. सो इनिशियली तो वी एक्सप्लेन टू देम एंड अटैचिंग ऑल ROC डॉक्यूमेंट्स एंड पैन, ये वो एवरीथिंग है. कंपनी का नाम ये डेट को चेंज हुआ है, ये डेट को रिटर्न फाइल किया, तब ओरिजिनल नाम ये था, ABC था, अभी XYZ हो गया है. As I mentioned that nobody even looks at it, what you have written. They treated the return, they again send a notice. Okay, no, you have not rectified the defect. Then we decided that इसको क्या करें, you can't argue with them now, because there is nobody to argue. If there is a physical officer available, you can go and explain, but you can't argue with machine. So we decided that what we'll do is we'll file the modified return. We file the modified XML return with the new name so that it matches. but somehow something went wrong, and this return which we filed is not showing up in the CPC database. It's showing on our CPC portal. Anyways, that's a different story. The consequence of this is that department is saying that you have not rectified the error and therefore your return has been made invalid. The moment your return is invalid, you have not filed a return, which means your refund claim is gone. We pursued through all means, everything, nothing has happened. Every time we go to officer here, there, everything, we do CP gram and everything, they say that नहीं आपका return ही नहीं दिख रहा है वहाँ पर, which means you are not compliant with our notice of defective return. We treated your return as invalid return and therefore your refund cannot be processed. Now we have filed a delay, then we decided चलो यार condonation का application डालते हैं, ये delay को condone करते हैं, and then we'll file the fresh return and we'll sort it out. But this delay for condonation of return has been filed with CBDT. It's almost like 2 years now. No sign, because there are hundreds and thousands of condonation requests which has been filed with the CBDT because of such technical issues at CPC. So you need to be a little careful whenever you receive any notice for defective. Please respond to it in time, properly, and ensure that it is properly responded to, because if the department treats your return as invalid return, then there is an issue. And nowadays there is no time available. By after December, the return gets time barred. You can't even file your return. And if it happens after assessment year or after that, after December or after assessment year, definitely you can't do anything about it. So you need to understand the line by line. You need to know your return line by line, and you should know what are the things which are there in the return, so that at the time of filling the return, at least we can ensure that this information are properly captured. Now the practical challenge of all these things, I understand, is that we as a professional cannot sit and actually feed each and every return or actually check, though we are supposed to do that, but practically is not possible looking at the volume and time available, because अभी AIs आ गए, TIs आ गए, इतना सारा reconciliation है, वो सब करते करते ही time निकल जाता है. Getting no extra fees paid for all these things. Somebody messaged me today कि the CBDT should stop giving the access of AIs and TIs. They only should keep it with themselves, and only after you file your return they should verify that आपने correct return file किया या नहीं किया. So I just remarked to him that it's like a traffic havaldar who will just wait in the corner or stand in the corner and see. The moment you enter no entry, he will catch you. So this is how it will happen. He said no, issue ये है कि reconciliation करने में बहुत time चला जा रहा है. So I suggested that एक काम करना चाहिए, उसमें अगर reconciliation करने में time जा रहा है तो आप जब जैसे ही अपने पास TIS डाउनलोड किया, SSC को भेज दो कि ये सब reconcile करके दो. वो बोलेगा नहीं मुझे नहीं हो रहा है, आपको करना पड़ेगा. Then you can quote कि ये additional काम है भी. Getting that just on a lighter vein, but that has increased the work tremendously, and most of the professional brothers and sisters are really fed up because of this. फिर मैच नहीं होता है, फिर SSC बोलता है नहीं मैंने तो शेयर बेचा ही नहीं है ही नहीं मेरे पास शेयर. Then we give them, then वो चेक करता है, फिर बोलता है हाँ वो मेरे बेटे ने शायद मेरे अकाउंट में बेचा होगा ये वो है. फिर वो बोलता है रिपोर्ट लेके आओ, उसका परचेस कॉस्ट किधर से लाओ. तो इट इज क्रिएटिंग सो मच ऑफ वर्क which is, I would not say unproductive, but basically that work is unremunerative. Okay, but all said and done, since we are filing the return, we have to ensure that we are on the top of it, and that is the reason why if we know all the issues, getting, so while reviewing the returns, you know that this 1 2 3 4 5 6 these are the issues. तो ये केस में ये issues है क्या है, तो वो specific चीजें check करो, clear करो. Getting, so it's a process of elimination. कि जो issues है उतने ही focus करो, बाकी तो ठीक है, बाकी सब common चलते रहते हैं. Okay, so this is one instruction which I thought that we all should keep it in mind whenever we are preparing any ITR, not only business income but entire ITR. I'm saying that you should know your forms so well that you know that which information is relatable or interlinked with which information, and that would definitely help us to improve the quality of our ITR and quality of our 143.1 orders. I'm just taking up some of the questions. So in case of only F&O activity, how to prepare financials? What I used to do sometimes when in the past I have got some cases जहाँ पर NRI है, उसे इंडिया में F&O ट्रांजेक्शन सिर्फ कर दिया है, कुछ नहीं है दूसरा, क्या करे उसका. So I used to route everything through capital account. तो बैलेंस शीट P&L में आता था, फिर F&O का ट्रांजेक्शन का डिटेल जो भी ब्रोकरेज ये वो सब नेट प्रॉफिट आ गया, वो नेट प्रॉफिट चला गया P&L अकाउंट में. P&L अकाउंट के सामने या तो ब्रोकर से रिसीवेबल है या बैंक बैलेंस है या कुछ बैलेंस है, वो बैलेंस शीट हो गया, उतने लिमिटेड बैलेंस शीट बना के दे दिया। ऑडिट भी करना है, ऑडिट भी करना है, ऑडिट भी करना है। just give me 1 second. Just 1 minute. Sorry. It's an working day, so can't avoid. So anyways, so that is the balance sheet P&L you can prepare. Suppose में ऑडिट करना पड़ रहा है because वो टर्नओवर 1 करोड़ होगा, अभी तो 10 करोड़ हो गया, इशू नहीं है, तो सेम वे से ऑडिट करते हैं, जो भी ट्रांजैक्शन है ब्रोकर अकाउंट एंड कैपिटल अकाउंट से रूट कर करके है, prepare the balance sheet, limited balance sheet you can prepare, and in your report you can mention that F&O division only, and you can give the comment that this report is only in respect of F&O activity and not the other activity of the SSC, as the information is not available, only this information is provided. Whatever you want to say, qualify it and specifically mention F&O activity only, F&O division only, and give the audit. That's the only way of doing it. In case of multiple business units and F&O activity, how to prepare financials. Now in the ITR you have to give single balance sheet. So you may have 1, 2, 3, 4 balance sheet. It is possible. सबको मर्ज करके एक साथ में आपको डालना पड़ेगा. You can't have a different balance sheet for different activity. In case of presumptive taxation, is it necessary to mention the cash, stock, debtors balance? What are the consequences of not reporting? Now, somebody asked me the query that when we are not maintaining the books of accounts, how can they expect us to give the details of cash, stock, and debtors, etc., etc.? Because I think in the idea there are some 3-4 items information which you have to give even if you is a presumptive taxation. So asking the question that a person when he's doing a business, we are saying is the books of accounts are not maintained. Okay, कोई बात नहीं, but हिसाब किताब तो रखता होगा ना, कि कुछ भी कोई भी पैसा मांगने आया, किसको भी पैसा दे दिया, क्रेडिटर पैसा लेने आया कि भाई आपके पानी पूरी का इतना पैसा बाकी है, वो दे दिया, वेजिटेबल वाला आया पैसा, ऐसा नहीं होगा ना, वो तो हिसाब रखता होगा ना कितना पैसा किसको दिया, किसको लिया है. Definitely, each and every businessman, however small or big he may be, he maintains some or other accounts. A small businessman may not have that robust system of accounting to retrieve the vouchers at later point in time, to have every voucher supported properly with some proper documentation. That is acceptable. But one can't say that I have absolutely no idea about what my cash balance is. I don't no idea about what my stock is. No, that can't be the answer. You have to, and even if you are not able to maintain, you will have to report that, or you have to ensure that it is maintained in that manner and is reported. What happens if it is not reported? I would say that there are no direct consequences because it is not impacting your income, so there cannot be any penalty. There is no specific provision for non-disclosure. The only difficulty which may arise is, for example, suppose cash balance है, अभी 2000 का नोट बंद हो गया, आपको पास 5 लाख रुपए पड़ा है, अगर आपने वो कैश बैलेंस 5 लाख रुपए उधर दिखाया होता, सपोज कि मेरे पास कैश पड़ा है, तो डेफिनेटली यू कुड हैव यूज्ड इट. So to start your cash का base, that will help. स्टॉक भी अगेन इट हेल्प्स, कभी सर्च हो जाता है, कभी कुछ हो जाता है, तो यू कैन डेफिनेटली से देखो ये स्टॉक मैंने डिस्क्लोज किया हुआ है. सो डिस्क्लोजर वुड हेल्प. अगर नहीं डिस्क्लोज करोगे तो मेरे हिसाब से कोई कंप्यूटेशन रिजेक्ट होगा ऐसा नहीं है. एट बेस्ट इफ योर प्रोसेसिंग सॉफ्टवेयर डिटेक्ट्स दैट दिस कॉलम्स आर ब्लैंक, you can write 0 0, but then that's an incorrect information given. Okay, if you keep it blank, you don't want to give incorrect because आप वेरिफिकेशन में देते हो कि ऑल इन्फॉर्मेशन गिवन, तो उसमें वो प्रोसिक्यूशन का इशू हो सकता है इन एक्सट्रीम केसेस. सो यू ब्लैंक रख देते हो, आपने इन्फॉर्मेशन दिया ही नहीं है. तो अंडर 139(9) इफ एनी कॉलम इज लेफ्ट ब्लैंक, इन्फॉर्मेशन इज नॉट गिवन एट ऑल, आपने हाँ भी नहीं बोला ना भी नहीं बोला, वो वाला सिचुएशन है, देन a notice can be sent saying that this is a defective return, you provide this information, otherwise we will treat your return as invalid. हो सकता है, but वो normally I have not seen any software any order of late on these issues they have sent us कि आपने ये columns भरे नहीं है. Technically if you see 139(9) it says that कोई भी आपका item है ITR का, वो blank नहीं होना चाहिए, कुछ ना कुछ इसमें information होना चाहिए. And software nowadays takes a call, आप नहीं डालोगे तो शायद वो जीरो ले ही लेता है अपने आप. Okay, so no direct consequences, but yes, अगर आपने जीरो डाला है एंड फ्यूचर में आपने कैश बैलेंस दिखाया है, एक्चुअली आपके पास स्टॉक निकला है, या आपने डेटा से रिकवरी दिखाया है, या फिर आपने नेक्स्ट ईयर आप 44 एडीए में नहीं हो और फिर आप बैड डेट राइट ऑफ कर रहे हो सेइंग दैट मेरा डेटर्स था वो ईयर का, तो वो बोलेगा अरे आपका डेटर्स तो है ही नहीं है, जीरो लिखा हुआ है अपने डेटर्स, तो कहाँ से डेटर्स आ गए, तो यू नेवर नो कहाँ पर जाके वो अटकेगा। एंड व्हेन यू आर अंडर 44 ADA, इट्स नॉट नेसेसरी दैट फॉर लाइफ यू विल बी अंडर 44 ADA। एट सम पॉइंट इन टाइम प्रोबेबली व्हेन यू विल ग्रो यू विल कम आउट ऑफ 44 ADA। तो वो जो बुक्स आपके चलेंगे, तो ओपनिंग बैलेंस शुड मैच विद डेटर स्टॉक एंड कैश ना, सो दैट इज व्हाट इट इज। This is a very pertinent question. Expenses are reported in common head. It results in scrutiny assessment. Any suggestions? Now this is what happens now, because the heads which are given, the heads which have been given are limited heads, excise duty, custom, प्रोफेशनल फी, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, टेलीफोन, वो सब स्पेसिफिक दिया, और बाकी हम क्या करते हैं, अदर्स में डाल देते हैं. Now many times what I have seen is the person who is feeding in the information, it doesn't take that much pain. वो मोटा मोटा जो 4-5 आइटम है जीएसटी वेस्टी जो अवेलेबल है वो डाल देता है, बाकी जो समझ में नहीं आता टोटल कर देता है, उसमें डाल देता है अदर्स में. ओके, अवर कंट्रोल इज P&L अकाउंट का प्रॉफिट मैच होना चाहिए ऑडिटेड अकाउंट से, दैट्स द कंट्रोल. अब वो सिस्टम जब उसको रीड करता है तो वो बोलता है अदर एक्सपेंसेस इतना बड़ा अमाउंट है विच इज डिस्प्रोपोर्शनेट. ओके, सो वो बेसिस वो स्क्रूटिनी में सेलेक्ट हो जाता है. my suggestion is that please train your people, please give them a little orientation explanation as to how important this schedule is. A. B, try and identify as much expenses as possible to the respective specific columns. For example, purchases है, तभी आपका normally if you see in a trading entity, in a manufacturing entity, purchases constitute almost 80 to 90% of the cost. अभी कोई परचेज भी नहीं डाल के है इधर नीचे डाल देगा तो क्या उसका कोई कुछ नहीं कर सकता, then that case has to come for scrutiny. Okay, so to try and identify, even though you may not have, suppose उधर टेलीफोन एक्सपेंसेस है और अपने बुक्स में कम्युनिकेशन एक्सपेंसेस है, सो इट्स द सेम थिंग ना, तो कम्युनिकेशन एक्सपेंस को टेलीफोन में डाल दो. यू कैन प्रिपेयर, अगर स्पेसिफिकली करना है एक्सेल में कि ये एक्सपेंसेस आईटीआर में किस किस हेड में गया है अगर बनाना है तो to that extent probably somebody will have to apply their mind. Okay, and ensure that जितना रियलिस्टिकली पॉसिबल है उतना प्रॉपर कॉलम्स रोज में वो एक्सपेंस जाने चाहिए. और उसके बाद भी जो अदर्स होते हैं वो अदर्स में अनफॉर्चुनेटली अदर्स में हम लोग जब डालते हैं अपने सॉफ्टवेयर में, वी एक्चुअली गिव आइटम वाइज डिटेल्स. ओके, जो दिखता भी है आइटम वाइज अपने को रिटर्न में, बट डिपार्टमेंट के डेटाबेस में जब जाता है ना वो आइटम वाइज नहीं जाता, वो अदर्स में जाता है. दैट इज अ प्रॉब्लम, दैट्स अ प्रैक्टिकल प्रॉब्लम, वी कांट डू एनीथिंग अबाउट इट. ओके, बट यस, जितना आप बेटर तरीके से कर सकते हो उतना स्क्रूटिनी में आने का चांसेस कम है. तो सजेशन इज दैट थोड़ा सा ओरिएंटेशन होना चाहिए पीपल हु आर फीडिंग द डेटा, एंड शुड एक्सप्लेन टू देम दैट हाउ इंपॉर्टेंट दिस डेटाबेस इज. एंड मोटा मोटा एज अ मैटर ऑफ अवर चेक, जब भी अपने पास रिटर्न फाइल चेक करने को आता है तो अदर एक्सपेंस में कितना अमाउंट गया है वो एक बार देख सकते हैं कि इतना बड़ा अमाउंट क्यों आ गया. रीजनेबल अमाउंट है, टर्नओवर का 5% 10% तक है, ठीक है, बट अगर लगता है कि टर्नओवर का 70% इधर आ गया है तो दैट कैन बी अ चेक पॉइंट विच वी कैन कीप चेकलिस्ट में कि अदर एक्सपेंसेस कितना है, या जो भी अपना वेरीफाई करने वाला है रिटर्न ऑफिस में उसको बोल सकते हैं कि ये 5-6 पॉइंट है, ये आप डेफिनेटली पॉइंट आउट करके चेक करो अदर में कितना गया हुआ है. तो दैट वुड डेफिनेटली इंप्रूव द क्वालिटी ऑफ द डेटा इन द रिटर्न. Claim for donation in absence of form 10BD. Now somebody asked me a query that यार आपको डोनेशन का डिडक्शन लेना है, मैंने तो डोनेशन दे दिया है, सामने वाले ने 10BD वगैरह या 10B फॉर्म जो भी है वो भरा नहीं है, तो क्या करें अभी उसका बीडी. आप प्लीज एक्सक्यूज मी फॉर द, आई एम लिटिल पुअर विद रिमेंबरिंग द नेम्स. सो वो ट्रस्ट ने तो फॉर्म भरा नहीं है तो हमको 10BD या उसका जो नंबर है वो मिलेगा नहीं, और ट्रस्ट तो भरने वाला है अभी भरा नहीं है, तो व्हाट टू डू, हमको तो रिटर्न फाइल करना ही है, क्या करें हम. सो क्वेश्चन इज दैट why it should not be allowed. हमने तो भरा है, तो the answer to that is no. अगर उनका सिस्टम में स्कीमा बोलता है कि ये नंबर आने के बाद ही आपको डोनेशन का डिडक्शन मिलेगा तो नंबर चाहिए. आप बोलो सर वो नंबर नहीं तो क्या करें, अभी ट्रस्ट ने रिवाइज नहीं किया, वो तो जुलाई के बाद करेगा, सितंबर उनका रिटर्न ड्यू, अक्टूबर है, व्हाटएवर है, वो जुलाई के बाद करेगा, अभी तक नहीं किया उन्होंने. आई कैन नॉट वेट टिल जुलाई, तो मैं क्या करूँ, और मैं अभी क्लेम नहीं करूँ तो बाद में मुझे रिटर्न रिवाइज करना पड़ेगा, तो फिर वापस ट्रैक रखना पड़ेगा मुझे रिटर्न रिवाइज करने का वगैरह. तो क्या करना चाहिए, द प्रैक्टिकल सोल्यूशन टू दिस. नाउ दिस इज नॉट, आई वुड से, आई एम सजेस्टिंग दैट ऐसा करना चाहिए, बट प्रैक्टिकल सोल्यूशन कि भाई एक बार अपने जेन्युइनली हमने डोनेशन दिया, आपको पता है ट्रस्ट भी जेन्युइन है, ओके, ट्रस्ट ने बोला भी है कि वी आर इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ रिवाइजिंग इट, अभी तक रिवाइज नहीं किया फॉर व्हाट एवर रीजन, पुट सम नंबर, एक बार तो उसको रिटर्न फाइल कर दो। अभी क्या होगा, जब ये प्रोसेसिंग में जाएगा तब तक अगर ट्रस्ट ने रिटर्न फाइल कर दिया है, ओके, तो प्रोबेबली वो मैच होके बोलेगा आपका मैच नहीं हो रहा, एटीजी क्वेश्चनेबल होगा, तो आप मॉडिफाइड एक्सएमएल फाइल कर दो। यू हैव एन ऑप्शन ऑफ फाइलिंग मॉडिफाइड एक्सएमएल, मॉडिफाइड एक्सएमएल में करेक्ट नंबर डाल के भेज दो, प्रोसेस कर दो, रिटर्न निकल जाएगा। So that at least you have complied with it. There is no revision from your side. It's only a modified XML which is filed, and there is no immediate tax liability. Because क्या होगा अगर आप डोनेशन क्लेम नहीं करते हो अभी कि मैं बाद में क्लेम करूंगा, तो इमीडिएट टैक्स लाइबिलिटी आएगा, यू हैव टू पे द टैक्स देन क्लेम द रिफंड। व्हाई टू कॉम्प्लिकेट इट, जस्ट पुट सम नंबर, अपलोड इट, जब उधर से क्वेरी आएगा तब तक अगर ट्रस्ट ने नहीं किया है तो फिर देन यू पे द टैक्स, कांट डू एनीथिंग अबाउट इट, बट कर दिया है तो दैट वुड सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम मॉडिफाइड एक्सएमएल से। चेंज इन द नेम ऑफ द कंपनी, ये तो मैंने आपसे डिस्कस कर लिया है। Extended due dates in the case of partners where firm is subject to tax audit. Now, this many times I have received in some cases a notice under 143(1) in the case of a partner, जहाँ पर पार्टनर ने लॉस का सेट ऑफ क्लेम किया था इन समवेयर इन असेसमेंट 18, 19, 19, 20। सीपीसी ने वो पार्टनर का रिटर्न जो ईयर का लॉस था वो तो पता चलता है 13, 14, 14, 15 का लॉस है, तो 13, 14 में जाके उन्होंने आइडेंटिफाई करके बोला कि 13, 14 का रिटर्न आपने लेट फाइल किया था एंड देयरफॉर यू आर नॉट एलिजिबल टू क्लेम दिस लॉस, और वो लॉस सारा डिसअलाउ कर दिया। वी वर पजल्ड कि ये कैसे हो गया, क्या बेसिस पे किया ये, बिकॉज सिंस द ऑडिट फर्म वाज सब्जेक्ट टू ऑडिट, उसका ड्यू डेट पार्टनर का भी सितंबर था या अक्टूबर, जो भी डेट होगा तो वो ईयर में, एंड टाइम पे फाइल किया हमने। नाउ व्हेन वी checked everything, then we realized that ये रिटर्न फाइल करते वक्त उस पॉइंट इन टाइम पे वो फर्म का पैन नंबर एंड अदर डिटेल्स वर नॉट प्रॉपर्ली कैप्चर्ड इन द रिटर्न, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट वो ड्यू डेट उससे कंसीडर किया ही नहीं नया वाला, यानी रिवाइज्ड वाला, getting, then we have to go to CIT appeal, then tribunal department went to tribunal, then we got an order from tribunal. It's a long run thing for no reason. So this is something very important, that whenever any of the individual is filing a return after 31st July on the ground that he is a partner of a firm who is subject to audit, then please ensure that the details of the firms are properly captured in the return. Otherwise आपका 143(1) में इशू आने वाला है, अभी नहीं आया तो जो ईयर में ये लॉस कैरी फॉरवर्ड हुआ, रिटर्न एसएससी के रिटर्न में जो लॉस कैरी फॉरवर्ड हुआ है वो ईयर में वो सेट ऑफ अलाउ नहीं करेगा, ये बोल के कि आपने अर्लियर ईयर में रिटर्न टाइम पे फाइल नहीं किया। तो दीस आर ऑल अवॉइडेबल थिंग्स एंड वी आर लर्निंग फ्रॉम आवर मिस्टेक्स, बिकॉज वी आल्सो नेवर रियलाइज कि ऐसे सब छोटी छोटी चीजों का भी इश्यूज हो सकता है, बट यस दिस इज व्हाट वी लर्न, वी रीलर्न, गेटिंग, वी शेयर विद पीपल, we learn from people. So this is how, and this is the whole process in which you can understand, because it's not a codified thing, it is something which is driven, process driven, software driven. The software keeps on changing, their permutation combination keeps on changing, so we have to evolve with it. Okay, intraday transaction के लिए अभी नया reporting clause आया, तो you can report there. Loss from partnership is added back in the computation despite the same disallowed, और ये सॉफ्टवेयर का इशू है। I have seen in my case also, I have received this notice, if there is a loss from a partnership firm तो हम कंप्यूटेशन में डिसअलाउ कर देते हैं ऑब्वियसली। अब 143(1) में वो बोलता है कि लॉस फ्रॉम पार्टनरशिप फर्म इज नॉट अलाउएबल, फिर डिसअलाउ कर देते हैं। तो उसके बाद हमने नॉर्मली वही रिटर्न को फिर मॉडिफाइड एक्सएमएल करके फाइल किया है, तो वो प्रोसेस होके आया भी है। तो अगर ऐसा कुछ आता है तो जस्ट कुछ मत करो, भगवान का नाम लीजिए, मॉडिफाइड एक्सएमएल बनाओ, गणेशाय नमः करके उसको अपलोड करो। अगर पता ही नहीं चला तो देन दैट्स द ओनली वे ऑफ डूइंग इट। अदरवाइज, because the problem is that normally they don't give the specific reasons why they are not allowing or disallowing. You have to go through each and every item by item, do some permutation combination, do some mathematical calculation, and then identify कि कहाँ हुआ होगा, क्यों हुआ होगा, getting. So that's a problem. That is the biggest problem with the processing. They don't give any reasons. Okay, and if not sure what is the error, then what to do? Now बहुत सारे इसमें solutions है। काफी बार what we do is, what everybody is also doing is, अगर कोई ऐसा एरर आ जाता है जो रेक्टिफाई नहीं हो रहा है या एरर क्या वही पता नहीं है, getting, the best way of doing it is to ensure that the case is assigned to your jurisdiction officer. You can write to them saying that either you solve this issue or this is complicated issue, kindly assign the case to jurisdiction officer. Write to jurisdiction officer regarding the query, because अगर डिमांड आया तो jurisdiction officer के ऊपर प्रेशर होता है, तो he also wants to resolve this. Okay, jurisdiction assessing officer can also write to the CPC saying that kindly transfer the jurisdiction rights here so that I can rectify the things. And there are various ways of doing it, यहाँ से या officer से. Once it comes to jurisdiction officer, then he can sit across, check your records, discuss with you, and then can do whatever has to be done. Okay. So whenever you file rectification with CPC is not happening, please also file a rectification with jurisdiction officer. वो लेता नहीं, एक बार फाइल कर दो उसके पास. Secondly, I always suggest that you should file an appeal, because if the software is not working or if there's some issue with software, nobody is ready to listen to you. Getting at least appeal में जाके if you can explain to the appellate authority, the issue is alive ना. वो appellate authority या तो order pass करके बोलेगा कि relief देना है. The moment there is an order of CIT appeal, then the officer, jurisdiction officer, while giving effect to the order of CIT appeal, can get into the system and can say they अभी order किया है, ये order के हिसाब से मैं change कर रहा हूँ, and that then the system will allow them to make the change, because the officer is not doing change on his own account. He is doing the change because there is an order from the higher authority. If the CIT appeal is not allowing, of course we can go to tribunal, and tribunals are very, very lenient and very, very large-hearted in allowing 143(1) appeals, because they also know that 90% of the 143(1) appeals are basically because of some processing error or some data mismatch here and there, which is not really the issue regarding the taxability. So they have been, if you see, I think nowadays almost 90% of the appeals which are filed with CIT appeals in numbers are under against 143(1), where everybody is just filing an appeal and keeping it. You can't take chance. And CIT appeals are also disposing only 143(1) appeals. In last 2-3 years, I have not received any one proper quantum appeal order जहाँ पर बड़ा कोई एडिशन है, बड़ा इशू, कोई ऑर्डर नहीं है. बट 143(1) जितने फाइल किए सारे डिस्पोज हो गए. And tribunal is also flooded with 143(1) appeals. So now तो अभी वो additional commissioners को भी CIT appeals का authority दिया हुआ है for these small appeals. So probably in a time to come the things will resolve. But yes, better safe than sorry. Precaution is better than cure. And stitch in time saves 9. Okay, तो ये सब process जो है CIT appeal, tribunal, this is all the process required only if we have now settled with that issue. But the best is to ensure that ये issue आ ही ना. तो आपका source क्या है? Source is your ITR. If the information is all properly captured in your ITR, very systematically in an organized manner, systematic manner, understanding how this 143(1) works, okay, then the number of issues coming out of under 143(1) would be very, very minimum, and that would be a great relief for us, because it unnecessarily creates pressure on the whole system, including our system, including the department and everybody, which is an unproductive thing, because ultimately ये सब कलेक्टिव और होता नहीं. डिमांड उधर खड़ा रहता है, फिर कोई रिफंड होगा, वो रिफंड उधर एडजस्ट हो जाता है, देन अगेन 154 करो. यू इमेजिन द काइंड ऑफ वर्क which is getting multiplied just because of some wrong processing happening, some demand being raised, some subsequent refund getting adjusted even without giving 245 notice. Even they give 245 notice, they don't adhere to what you say there, mention there. Okay, they will just adjust the demand. The moment demand is adjusted, फिर चिलम चिली शुरू हो जाता है, ये पैसा कहाँ चला गया. Then you identify this. काफी बार तो लोगों को पता भी नहीं चलता कहाँ से कहाँ adjust हुआ. Recently, I was reviewing some old files, so I realized that in one of the clients' case, more than 50-60 lakhs rupees का refund ऐसे इधर उधर adjust हो गया, and their accounts department has not even realized कि ये refund नहीं आया. So when I was doing some review of some old files, so some other matter, तो I realized कि ये सब refunds का क्या हो गया, इनका refund किधर आया check करो. तो we realized that ये सब refund आगे पीछे adjust कर दिया और वो सब demand बाद में zero हो गया. But nobody bothered कि zero हो गया तो इधर का credit उधर लेना है. वो सब अभी निकाल के अभी yesterday only I got one order of 32 lakhs for 13-14. Nobody. So this is what is creating so much of complications, unnecessary complications for the SSC, and the best is to kill these issues at the source. And our source, our connection with the department is ITR. And that's why, therefore, this filing of ITR in the right sense, in the right manner, is very, very important. जितने भी अपने ऑफिस में 143 बनाते हैं, उसका लिस्ट बनाओ. एक दूसरे के साथ शेयर भी करो कि मेरे पास ये 141 का इशू है. The more the issue you come to know, more better your ITR reporting would be, because the moment 141 के आप समझो आपके ऑफिस में 5 इश्यूज आए, तो डेफिनेटली देखो एक चीज वेरी सिंपल इंपॉर्टेंट ये है, सिंपल टू अंडरस्टैंड है कि द सॉफ्टवेयर इज नॉट पार्शियल, कि आपके केस में एडिशन कर रहा है उसके केस में नहीं कर रहा है. इट कैन बी, इट हैपेंस विद एन ह्यूमन बीइंग, दैट वो डिस्क्रिप्शन यूज करता है, कभी कर दिया कभी नहीं किया. बट मशीन डिस्क्रिप्शन यूज नहीं करता. मशीन है, they have no emotion, no feeling, getting no favoritism, nothing. उनको प्रोसेसिंग में डालो, उनके सॉफ्टवेयर में नहीं बैठेगा तो एडिशन करेगा. So first and foremost thing I always tell my people here, that whenever there is an addition which happens under 143.1 or notice comes under 143.1 AD, ABCD, then please don't start blaming the software. Please see कि कहाँ पर अपने यहाँ पर प्रोसेस में चुका है. 10 में से 9 times I have seen that definitely कुछ ना कुछ ऐसा गैप्स हमारे यहाँ से रह गया जिसकी वजह से वो प्रोसेसिंग में इशू आ रहा है. गेटिंग वो तो सॉफ्टवेयर है, उसको तो प्रोग्राम किया हुआ. ऐसे इनिशियल ईयर्स में प्रोग्रामिंग के इशू की वजह से काफी कुछ हो रहा था, बट मोर और लेस आई हैव सीन द प्रोग्रामिंग हैव इम्प्रूव्ड quite a bit now, because ये सब ट्रायल एंड एरर होता है. They learn from their mistakes, then they upgrade, then they learn, they upgrade. They are also relearning as we are relearning. That software, the department is also relearning. And so अभी I have seen कि जब भी 143 का डिमांड है कुछ आता है, डेफिनेटली कहीं ना कहीं किसी ना किसी का कुछ ना कुछ इशू हुआ, गड़बड़ हुआ रहता है आईटीआर में. So the first thing which I always tell them, that please don't blame software, because the moment you blame software, you will stop looking at your errors, and that will not help also, because software को क्या फर्क पड़ता है. You give the same thing, it will give the same thing again. Garbage in, garbage out. That's a basic principle on which the computer machine works. जैसा डाटा दोगे वैसा रिजल्ट आएगा. You give garbage, you will get garbage. Okay. So many times you find that, oh okay, इधर ये थोड़ा मिस्टेक हो गया था, इधर ऐसा रिपोर्ट नहीं किया, इधर ये टिक नहीं किया है, and then we do, and modified XML का option available है. Do modified XML, change that, process it. I have seen almost in all cases nowadays we have been able to get clear resolution. So of late I don't see any, I don't remember any appeals filed against 143.1. Almost सब resolve हो जाता है. So this is what all the presentation I wanted to give regarding this ITR. Let's open the floor for questions if there are any. Okay, and Amlesh Maskikar, please can you give CVD circular? Which circular you are referring? I'm not able to get which circular you are referring to. So if you can mention the name of circular, then definitely I can share with WRC and they can upload it. What can be done in the case of invalid return on wrong facts, even though we have replied properly? This is something which is a little typical and difficult situation. The first and foremost, you should file an appeal. Bada matter hai, you can file a writ also. Okay. And normally what department suggests is, एक काम करो यार, आप लोग कंडोनेशन डाल दो, हम कंडोन कर देंगे, फिर ऑफिस रिटर्न फाइल कर दें, वैलिडेट हो जाएगा. सो यू सी, अगर अपने साइड से कुछ मिस्टेक हुआ है जिसकी वजह से हुआ है, देन गो फॉर कंडोनेशन. अपना मिस्टेक नहीं है कुछ भी, एंड इट इज ओनली बिकॉज ऑफ द डिपार्टमेंट एरर, सॉफ्टवेयर एरर, फाइल एन अपील. अर्जेंट मैटर है, इंपॉर्टेंट मैटर है, फाइल अ रिट. Okay. अच्छा. Then कहाँ जा रहे हैं बराबर. Nowadays department is getting details of LNB sale of flat from register office, and they are getting same details one time at the half registration of for loan approval, and then at the time of final registration in TI showing duplicate. How to solve this issue? Should we educate department AO? Nobody can educate department in AO. They are all pervasive. So now this is the problem. Yeah, TIs वगैरह में काफी problems हो रहे हैं. What I do personally is that we go to TIS. TIS में there is an option that if the value which is reported and the derived value, actual value which is going in your return is different. So what we do is that difference we deny. So there are, if you go, there are various categories. Okay, it belongs to other PAN, it belongs to other assessment year, it belongs to exam category, etc., etc. It is denied. The last one is it is denied. So we go there. Suppose एक ट्रांजैक्शन 2 बार रिपोर्ट हुआ है, तो 1 करोड़ का ट्रांजैक्शन, तो 1 करोड़ उसमें डाल के, अगर ऑप्शन है रिपोर्टेड ट्वाइस तो ट्वाइस डाल, कुछ नहीं तो लास्ट में डाल देते हैं हम लोग कि ट्रांजैक्शन डिनाइड. सो दैट डिराइव्ड वैल्यू जो है वो और मैंने जो रिपोर्ट किया वो मैच हो जाता है. यू कैन टेक अ प्रिंट ऑफ दैट, वो प्रिंट लेकर रख दो. यू कैन डू मच अबाउट इट. आई विल गिव यू एन एग्जांपल, सिंपल एग्जांपल. एग्रीकल्चरल लैंड, रूरल एग्रीकल्चरल लैंड is not a capital asset. Okay, and therefore it is not an exempt transaction in the sense that एग्रीकल्चर इनकम का ऐसा नहीं कि इनकम है बट एग्जम्पशन है. रूरल एग्रीकल्चर लैंड के केस में, सॉरी, रूरल एग्रीकल्चर लैंड के केस में वो एसेट ही नहीं है, वो इनकम ही नहीं है, एंड देयरफॉर देयर इज नो क्वेश्चन ऑफ क्लेमिंग एग्जम्पशन. इन योर आईटीआर there is no column, no row available where you can disclose agricultural rural agriculture land. तो आपको रिटर्न में कहीं आता ही नहीं है, बट वो रिपोर्ट हो जाता है एआईएस टीआईएस में. बट वहां पर आपको ऑप्शन है कि ये वो वैल्यू को कम करने के लिए, एंड देन वहां पर ऑप्शन दे सकते हो रूरल एग्रीकल्चर लैंड. यू टिक दैट ऑप्शन, तो आपका डिराइव्ड वैल्यू में जीरो हो जाएगा वो, एंड देन यू कैन टेक अ प्रिंट एंड कीप दैट. एटलीस्ट यू हैव कम्युनिकेटेड टू द डिपार्टमेंट सो दैट कल अगर कोई क्लेम आता है ऐसा कि आपका ये रूरल एग्रीकल्चर लैंड के लिए क्वालिफाई नहीं हो रहा है, तो प्रोबेबली इन द केस ऑफ पेनल्टी मैटर यू कैन ऑब्वियसली रिलाई ऑन दिस, के देखो हमने तो डिस्क्लोज कर ही दिया था. तो यू शुड, जहां पर भी रिकंसिलेशन करने के बाद अगर आपको वेरिएशन मिल रहा है, दैट वेरिएशन इज एक्सप्लेनेबल, दैट देयर इज एन एरर, डुप्लीकेशन. काफी बार जॉइंट प्रॉपर्टी है, दोनों के नाम पे पैन है, दोनों के नाम में पूरा अमाउंट रिपोर्ट हो जाता है, तो उसमें डाल सकते हैं कि 50% रिपोर्टेड इन दिस पैन. या अपना टीडीएस कट गया है, पैसा अपने को नेक्स्ट ईयर टीडीएस कट गया बट ट्रांजैक्शन नेक्स्ट ईयर में हुआ है, एडवांस आया, पैसा कटा मार्च में, एंड अप्रैल में वो प्रॉपर्टी सेल हुआ है, तो वो उसमें ऑप्शन आता है कि इन अदर ईयर विच ईयर वो डाल देना है, अमाउंट डालना है, तो ऑटोमेटिक वो जीरो हो जाता है. तो दिस इज व्हाट वी हैव टू डू, एंड देयर इज नो चॉइस. एंड एजुकेट इन द सेंस कि अगर कोई स्पेसिफिक क्वेरी है तो वो जो उनके ग्रीवेंसेस हैं, उनके जो वेब मैनेजर के ईमेल आईडीज हैं, ओके, उसके ऊपर वी कैन सेंड देम द ईमेल. इफ दे रीड एंड दे लर्न फ्रॉम दैट, नथिंग लाइक दैट, ओके. और एजुकेट करने के लिए इश्यूज हम लोग रेज करके वी कैन गिव इट टू द इंस्टीट्यूट. Institute can compile them in a proper manner and then can communicate or have a high level discussion or high level meeting, okay, with the authorities, and can come out with some resolution wherein these issues are resolved. Possible hai, educate karna bhi possible at the institute level, definitely it is doable, okay. Then coming to the query, okay, is there a website or blog to etc where all such CPC processing errors, software glitches are discussed or reported? I am not aware. अगर होगा तो मुझे भी बताओ. Even I would like to refer to that blog. You can start the blog and circulate with your friends and make it viral. Definitely everybody wants such kind of platform. Ashish Jain, form 10B. Yeah, okay. I mentioned that I don't remember the form. Why department is allowing deduction for contribution to political parties? Department is not allowing, law is allowing, and lawmakers are allowing. Okay, any is response to outstanding demand under change, as I am not able to locate the tab. ये ई फाइलिंग पोर्टल में ये है, प्रोसीडिंग्स के अंदर है आउटस्टैंडिंग डिमांड का, बट वो काफी टाइम, मैनी टाइम आई हैव सीन दैट देयर आर डिमांड बट इज नॉट रिफ्लेक्टिंग ऑन द पोर्टल. सो अभी तो पोर्टल पे लोड बहुत ज्यादा है, तो प्रोबेबली पोर्टल में बहुत सारे फंक्शंस काम नहीं करेंगे. टू मेक पोर्टल लिटिल लाइटर एंड एक्सेसिबल टू ऑल, व्हाट आई थिंक इज एज दिस IRCTC डू दैट इन द मॉर्निंग टाइम व्हेन देयर इज अ तत्काल बुकिंग का लोड, तो दे deactivate many of the tabs, okay, which are not really required, that urgently required. वो सब डीएक्टिवेट करते तो थोड़ा लोड कम हो जाता है पोर्टल के ऊपर, पोर्टल को ज्यादा पावर मिल जाता है, एंड दैट प्रोबेबली मस्ट बी द रीजन दैट सम ऑफ द फंक्शंस आर नॉट वर्किंग, बट वो उधर ही है, कोई चेंज नहीं हुआ है एज फार एज माय नॉलेज गोस. If the SSC has the professional income from practice and business loss from F&O, is it possible to go for 4480 of professional income? Yes, it is possible. Each business is separate, so you can have regular business, but audit वगैरह होगा तो then सब क्लब हो जाएगा. ऑडिट में अगर जाता है तो सब क्लब करके ऑडिट करना पड़ेगा. यू कैन नॉट हैव कि 4480 में एक ले लिया, 4480 में ले लिया, फिर दूसरा बिजनेस को 4480 में ले लिया. टर्नओवर के लिए सब ऐड करो. अगर ऑडिट में नहीं हो या 4480 और 80 का टर्नओवर का लिमिट ब्रीच नहीं हो रहा है, देन डेफिनेटली यू कैन कंटिन्यू इन द 4480, बट टर्नओवर के लिए सारे बिजनेस को जोड़ना पड़ेगा आपको. प्लीज ऑल्सो highlight new rules regarding payment made outside India. I don't know. I have not understood this question. Which rules Sishi Ranjan is referring to? You can elaborate on the rules in your chat box. Two assets is having the same nature of income. Let's say commission income. Both of them earn same amount of income. Let's say 12 lakh. Mr. A shows income from PGP. Mr. Show is both they say earning same nature of income from the last for financial year. Note SSA doesn't have any other nature of income quarter one. Mr. B views of showing the above is correct. If Mr. B wants to tax, yeah, you can always do that. And it's not necessary that एक year में आपने PBG लिया तो बाद में other source नहीं कर सकते, other source का PBG नहीं कर सकते. Whatever you think that ये correct position है, तो definitely you can change. While calculating remuneration to partner under section 40 should be add back reimbursement of expenses. Of course, because any payment. Now, if it is reimbursement of pure expenses, then वो add नहीं करना, because that is not in connection with the remuneration. It is a normal business expenditure. वो add नहीं होगा. But otherwise उसको remuneration के नाम पे दिया है, commission के नाम पे दिया है, bonus के नाम पे दिया है, वो सब add हो जाएगा. Should the exporter fill the schedule FSI? अच्छा, FA schedule, FSI schedule. नहीं, it is not from asset outside India. That income earned from the source or asset outside India. Source is in India. अगर मेरा कोई बिजनेस यूनिट आउटसाइड इंडिया है, मेरा कोई सपोज प्रॉपर्टी है आउटसाइड इंडिया, उसका रेंट आ रहा है, तो ये आएगा. Shishi Ranjan has asked a question that should the exporter fill the schedule FA, foreign asset schedule, as he is receiving foreign income. So please remember, the disclosure is not for foreign income. The disclosure is for income from a source outside India. When you are exporting, the source is in India, your business is in India, so that disclosure is not required. Is IPO expenses allowable expenditure? वो 35D में जाना है, 1/5 वगैरह आपको कैलकुलेट करके क्लेम करना. IPO expenditure technically is a capital expenditure relatable to raising the capital, and therefore it is not allowable as deduction. It's a capital expenditure. However, section 35D में there are some parameters. वो लिमिट में अगर है तो you can claim those expenditures deduction in 5 equal installments. My query pertains to capital gains. Akshata K. In the case of one of my friends, AI's information pertaining MF units redeemed on 30th March is appearing. Should I disclose it in ITR for 23-24? Now, I think what you should do is you should see the redeem कब हुआ है. अगर 22-23 में हुआ है, actually, so it is taxable in 22-23 only. You should disclose in 22-23. If you disclose in 23-24, the problem will be यहाँ पर आप टैक्स भर दोगे, and department 22-23 में फिर टैक्स कर देगा उसको. So please don't do that. Salary income from tax-free GCC countries, how do we report it for NRI? NRI को तो रिपोर्ट करना ही नहीं है. रेसिडेंट अगर है और उसको फॉरेन कंट्री से इनकम आ रही है, तो वो इनकम रिपोर्ट करनी पड़ेगी, बिकॉज सोर्स इज इन फॉरेन कंट्री. तो एफए शेड्यूल लास्ट जो है आपका जी, शेड्यूल जी में डिस्क्लोज करना पड़ेगा. Is TDS required to be deducted on compensation deterioration, I don't know, in quality of land by manufacturing company? I have not understood the query. Ashish Jain has raised some question. So if you can just explain it properly, we can look into it. The compensation to farmer, basically, if it is a rural agricultural land, then not taxable. TDS not applicable. If it is not a rural agricultural land, then 1% TDS is applicable that they have to deduct. If the farmers can offer that income, if the refund has to be given, they can claim the refund. ठीक है. I think that's what I discussed with that 3 घंटा तो difficult है ये session के ऊपर बात करना, but we should be able to finish it in 2 hours. And if still anybody wants to raise any query, okay, please feel, either you can type or you can unmute yourself and mention your query. I will try and resolve as much as possible. SSC's TDS for financial year, Aditya Nanda, SSC's TDS for financial year 22-23 deducted but not paid by the director till July 23. Form 26 AS and AS does not reflect the said amount till date. What shall be the best possible option for the ISSC to consider as we discussed for the 10BE also, एक बार आपको पता है आपका TDS कटा हुआ है, एक बार तो 26 ईयर्स में डाल के सॉरी आपका TDS इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न में डाल के उसका डिडक्शन क्लेम कर लो TDS में. Get after the deductor, ensure that he files the return. You can just sorry, I think I got disconnected in a while in middle. So what I'm trying to say here, am I audible? Viraj?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
ठीक है. So I was explaining क्या क्या डिस्कस कर रहे थे हम लास्ट ईयर. आई जस्ट हाँ कि आपके पास टीडीएस का क्रेडिट नहीं दिख रहा है ना, आपने क्या करना है. आई वुड सजेस्ट strongly that please claim that credit, get after the deductor. Please mention to him that if I write one letter to the department saying that आपने tax deduct किया और deposit नहीं किया है, they will come and survey you, and that is the fact. I'm telling you, department takes this very very seriously. You just go to the TDS department, meet the commissioner's office, ITO headquarter, give him the detail कि सर मेरा ये टैक्स कटा है, ये इसका इन्फॉर्मेशन है, ये उसका पार्टी का नाम, एड्रेस है, पैन नंबर है, टैन नंबर है, जो भी, एंड दे हैव नॉट डिपॉजिटेड टैक्स, मेरा रिटर्न फाइल करना है, आई एम फाइंडिंग इट डिफिकल्ट. जस्ट राइट, गिव इट टू देम इन राइटिंग. 100% they will take an action. If it is a big amount, they will survey him. छोटा अमाउंट होगा तो उसको फोन करके बुलाएंगे एंड उससे पैसा निकलवाएंगे. अदरवाइज दे विल प्रोसिक्यूट हिम, दे विल मेक हिज लाइफ डिफिकल्ट. nobody can take that nobody can take that चांस. तो हो जाना चाहिए. एंड जब वो रिपोर्ट होता है तब मॉडिफाइड एक्सएमएल फाइल करके उसको खत्म करो. हेलो
हेलो,
हाँ
मिस्टर पंकज जी बोल रहे हैं.
हाँ
सर, ये मातृदेव जी से आपका नंबर मिला है. एक्चुअली एक केस चल रहा है आपका इनकम टैक्स में.
एक
ओके सर, माइक म्यूट है आपका.
sorry हाँ. So 44 ADA का, if you have done the audit because there was a loss, then for 5 years you are banned from using this provision. So I think I have tried and replied to all the queries raised to the best of my ability, and I think Viraj, Aditya, you can take it over now to complete the proceedings. And in the meantime, if anybody wants to actually mention your query, you can please unmute yourself and also mention that we are open to still yeah. Email ID is yeah. Yeah, Aditya, you can take it over from here. I think queries are all addressed and there are no further new queries which are pending. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Hello.
Yeah. Please.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. And good evening, everyone. I am CA Viraj Demanna, and I would like to. Okay, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible, Viraj.
Okay, sir. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Western India Regional Council for organizing this virtual session on the topic of practical issues on computation of business income and reporting of foreign assets in India by Pankaj sir. I would also like to thank CA Aditya Mundada sir for introducing the faculty and CA Shweta Jain ma'am for being the master of ceremonies. The session was very informative and provided valuable insights into the practical issues related to computation of business income and reporting of foreign assets in ITR. The speaker, CA Pankaj Jain sir, was very knowledgeable and provided a detailed explanation of the subject matter. The session was well organized and the use of technology made it easy to follow along. I would like to thank all the participants for their active participation in the session. Your questions and comments added value to the discussion, and I hope that you found the session informative and useful. Once again, I would like to thank WIRC for organizing this session, CA Pankaj Jain sir for sharing his knowledge with us, CA Aditya sir for introducing the faculty, and CA Shweta Jain ma'am for being the master of ceremonies. Thank you all for attending and have a great evening.
Just one more last point before we conclude the session. Is my email ID visible on the screen?
No, no, sir.
Just one second. Then I think I'll have to. Is it available now? Visible now? Is it visible now?
No, sir.
Okay. So I think you can please note, people are in the comment box asking for my contact details. So my email ID is pkj1979. I'm repeating. It's an initials of Pankaj Kiran Jain, pkj1979 @gmail.com. So you all can feel free to direct your queries on this email ID, and I will definitely try and explain. The presentation will be shared by WRC on their website in the due course of time. Thank you, Viraj. So we can officially end the session.
Thank
you all for your patient hearing. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.